Chapter 2566. Peng China gasped. Only then did he realize that he was wrong about Jean Dui. He thought that Jean Dui was just a lucky young man who saved Dugi Yuran once. But now it seemed that Jean Dui was a peerless, ruthless man. Dugi Yuran looked a little abnormal. Looking at Zhu Lin, whose eyes were blown into two bloody holes, and screaming again and again, she was overjoyed. If it weren't for the occasion, she would have clapped her hands and laughed out loud. His eyes exploded. Ha, interesting. Whoosh. Rong Xiangli rushed out at once and raised his hand to slap Zhu Lin. Suddenly, there was a flash of light, and the incomparable red vitality turned into a torrent and poured into Zhu Lin's body. Then, Rong Xiangli took out a green gourd, poured out a liquid with sacred luster, and dripped it into Zhu Lin's eyes. Then, bursts of Taoist light and mysterious law condensed, and Zhu Lin's eyes returned to their original appearance. However, Rong Xiangli's face darkened. He noticed that although Zhu Lin's injuries were healed, his talent was completely destroyed. He looked at Lin Sun fiercely and said in a cold voice, "I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. It was just a fight, but you used such a cruel means to destroy Zhu Lin's talent. It's unforgivable. I'm going to kill him." Zhu Lin roared. His heart was bleeding, and his face was distorted. The destruction of his talent was equivalent to a serious blow to his cultivation, which would greatly affect his future cultivation. As he said, he released a terrible power and slapped Lin Sun with his palm. In an instant, the world turned pitch black, and a giant hand filled with a sinful aura slammed down from the sky. Countless figures of gods and devils roared as they charged out, giving off a terrifying aura. It was like a dark demon world had come. The great demon-resisting palm. The supreme secret skill of Zhu family can easily pull the opponent into the boundless dark demon world with one palm, making him beg for death. Peng Tianxiang's face changed. Lin Sun didn't even look at it, and also slapped his palm. Boom! This palm was simple and plain, but when it was shot out, it was like a god descending to the world, bursting out endless, terrible killing power. Boom! In an instant, the antique pavilion burst into pieces, and the power of prohibition covering the Castellan mansion was running, counteracting and resolving the terrible power torrent. The people nearby had already retreated far away. Amidst the sound of the collision, Zhu Lin's body trembled in the air. All the defensive power in his body was shattered, and he felt as if he could not circulate his cultivation. He had experienced thousands of battles in his life, but he had never encountered such a strong pressure. This is impossible. How can a character from the great Thousand World possess such tyrannical strength? Zhu Lin's expression changed drastically. With a roar, his palms transformed into countless palm shadows. The great demon resistance palm imprints numbered in the tens of thousands. As he struck out, it was as if the ruler of darkness had descended, capable of destroying heaven and earth. The entire city lord's mansion shook violently, and countless restrictive spells tumbled. However, Lin Sun held out his palm. Under the cover of the dense Taoist light, streams of power were brewing, exploding and bursting out. This palm strike was like a primordial divine mountain from the heavenly realm smashing down to the mortal world. It revealed a terrifying might that could collapse the heavens and the earth, shatter the sun and moon, and collapse all Daos. All of Zhu Lin's attacks were easily shattered. Everyone saw that Zhu Lin was sent flying into the air, blood spurting out of his mouth. Whoosh! At this moment, Lin Sun had already gotten up from his seat. With a flash, he came to Zhu Lin and grabbed his throat. Zhu Lin struggled desperately, but he couldn't move. His face was as red as a pig's liver. There was a dead silence. Zhu Lin, a peerless great emperor from the Zhu family of the immortal emperor clan, was a dazzling and peerless giant. But in the twinkling of an eye, his neck was clamped like a dead dog. Who could believe it? And the terrible combat power Lin Sun showed was also frightening. It was too cruel and tyrannical. He easily suppressed a peerless great emperor, which was completely beyond everyone's expectation. Bastard, kill me if you have the guts. Otherwise, I promise you will die without a burial place." Zhu Lin roared furiously. Being suppressed like this, he lost control of his state of mind and emotions. Lin Sun's black eyes flashed with killing intent. "I didn't intend to kill you, but now it seems that I can't let you live. Stop." Almost at the same time, Peng Qianhe and Rong Xiangli took action together. Peng Qianhe felt helpless in his heart as well. He was a member of the Peng clan, and it was even to the extent that he wished for nothing more than for Zhu Lin to be killed. However, he was even more clearly aware that if Zhu Lin was killed in his territory, then he and the Peng clan would definitely suffer the consequences of the power that stood behind Zhu Lin. That was to say, Zhu Lin could die, but not in the territory of the Peng family. Boom! As soon as Peng Qianhe took action, he used the power of the ancestor of the Tao to cover the sky. It was not to suppress Lin Sun, but to save Zhu Lin's life at the first time. Rong Xiangli, on the other hand, took out a fiery red flying shuttle. It was extremely sharp, and it was an incomparably terrifying monarch weapon. It was aimed at the back of Lin Sun's head. Everyone knew that if Lin Sun killed Zhu Lin, he would suffer a fatal blow at the same time. At this critical moment, Greenwood Taoist body and Red Flame Taoist body rushed out. Clang! Amidst the earth-shattering sounds of collision, the fiery red flying shuttle was blocked, and at the same time, Red Flame Taoist body glowed and blocked the terrible power from Peng Qianhe. Boom! It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was cracking, producing a violent torrent of destruction. Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that Lin Sun could defuse such a fatal threat. It was incredible. In particular, Lin Sun was able to resist the pressure from Peng Qianhe, who was an ancestor of the Tao family. It was even more shocking and unbelievable. Bang! Lin Sun's original body suddenly exerted force. Zhu Lin, whose neck was firmly grasped by Lin Sun, exploded in an instant. Only his spirit was left to resist Lin Sun's power. God-forbidding seal. Just like Fang Xuanjin and Wen Xiaohong, Zhu Lin used the God-forbidding seal at the moment of death. Lin Sun was not surprised by this. He was already used to it. He directly imprisoned Zhu Lin's spirit and put it into the abyssal sword cauldron without a trace. As the power of the Order Phoenix flame ran, Zhu Lin's spirit directly exploded and was obliterated. He died completely. Rong Xiangli was furious. His face was livid, and his eyes were about to spit fire. He didn't expect Lin Sun to be so ruthless. He didn't care about the threat at all, and killed Zhu Lin without any scruples. "How dare you?" Peng Qianhe was furious, and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. Zhu Lin was dead. If this matter was spread out, an ancestor of the Tao family would also be implicated and suffer an undeserved disaster. At this moment, the great Emperor Zhu Ying, who was attending the banquet in the distance, was completely dumbfounded. Zhu Lin, he was in existence from the immortal Emperor clan. No matter how high his cultivation was, his identity alone was enough to deter any great emperor from the vast thousand world and make them not dare to offend him. But now, Jin Di not only destroyed Zhu Lin's talent, but also killed him. Even Peng Qianhe and Rong Xiangli couldn't stop him. This was too terrifying. Peng Tianxiang was dumbfounded, and his jaw almost dropped to the ground. No matter how much he hated Zhu Lin, he had to admit that in terms of identity, Zhu Lin was superior to him. But now, Zhu Lin died just like that. The bloody scene made his scalp tingle. He begged me to kill him. If I don't kill him, wouldn't I seem very unreasonable? Lin Sun said casually with a calm expression. Jin Duyi, you're courting death. Rong Xiangli's expression was terrifying. You don't know how serious the consequences will be, and your Peng family will also bear the responsibility for this matter. Peng Qianhe's face darkened, and he said angrily, Jin Duyi, you're a murderer. You deserve to die 1,000 times. I'll suppress you and send you to the Zhu family to apologize. Enough. Right at this moment, Dugu spoke slowly. Her crystalline and translucent eyes that were like gems were icy cold, and her fair and beautiful oval face was suffused with an oppressive, dignified expression. In this matter, It was Zhu Lin who was in the wrong first. Since he's dead, he only has himself to blame. No matter what the consequences are, ask his Zhu clan to come look for me. His words were cold and calm, powerful and powerful. Everyone was in disbelief. Zhu Lin's death would definitely cause the Zhu family to be furious. Everyone knew that the consequences were not easy to bear. Otherwise, Peng China would not be so angry. But now, Dugi Yuran actually wanted to bear all the consequences. Only Peng China was overjoyed. He felt relieved and relaxed. With Dugi Yuran bearing the responsibility, the Peng family would not have to worry about being implicated. Yuran, Zhu Lin has done a lot for you all these years. But now, for an outsider, you don't even care about Zhu Lin's death? Rong Xiangli's eyes were filled with boundless anger. He could not understand why an intelligent woman like Dugi Yuran would make such a stupid decision. I've already said that he deserved it. Brother Jean is my savior. Even if my family knows about my decision, they will not blame me. Dugi Yuran's eyes were cold as she glanced at Rong Xiangli. And you, in the past, I was worried about the reputation of your family, so I didn't want to embarrass you. But now, you actually dared to point fingers at me. Are you qualified? Dugi Yuran's words caused Rong Xiangli to lose all his face. His expression became gloomy and his eyes turned red with anger. In other words, Dugi Yuran's words had dealt a heavy blow to his self-esteem. Everyone was trembling. They could not believe that Dugi Yuran would defend Jean Duyi like that. It was obvious that she did not intend to give Rong Xiangli any face. Peng Tianxiang was laughing in his heart. Zhu Lin was dead. Awesome. Rong Xiangli was also reprimanded and attacked. Awesome. The only thing that he was unhappy about was that the person Dugi Yuran was protecting was not him. Peng Tianxiang could not be happy when he thought of this. Rong Xiangli took a few deep breaths and gradually calmed down. He said, Yuran, if my actions made you angry, I can apologize. But for today's matter, I can only say that Jean Duyi will not be able to escape blame. Later in the day, Chapter 2567. Then, Rong Xiangli left in a huff. In fact, he didn't have the face to stay here any longer. Zhu Lin's death was a great blow to him, and Dugi Yuran's attitude caused him to feel both ashamed and furious, causing his dignity to suffer a heavy blow. Seeing Rong Xiangli leave, Peng China sighed. I'm afraid that today's matter can't be settled easily. Senior, shouldn't you be smiling now? Dugi Yuran said calmly. After all, Peng family doesn't have to worry about being implicated. Peng China's face stiffened and he said awkwardly, we can't afford to offend Zhu family and Rong family. Only Miss Yuran can be fearless of them. Don't worry, Yuran. No matter what decision you make, I will always be on your side, Peng Tianxiang said sincerely. Then he looked at Lin Sun. Brother Jean, you don't have to feel too much pressure. Now that Yuran is here, Zhu family has to think about the consequences of offending you. Lin Sun nodded and said, Thank you for your hospitality today, Brother Peng. I'll leave now. Then, he left directly. Brother Jean, I'll go with you, Dugi Yuran said and followed Lin Sun. Seeing her beautiful figure chasing Lin Sun, Peng Tianxiang's heart tightened and he also wanted to catch up. Don't disturb Miss Yuran after such a serious thing happened today. Peng China stopped him. Alas, Peng Tianxiang sighed. Are you angry? The night was as dark as ink, and the stars were shining in the sky. The bustling street was full of people and carriages. Dugi Yuran caught up with Lin and said, I said I'll solve this problem. I won't let you be implicated. Lin Sun said indifferently without looking back. To put it bluntly, it started because of you, so you should be the one to solve it. Dugi Yuran raised her delicate eyebrows and said with a smile, Are you blaming me? Not really. I just don't want to be the target of those lascivious men around you, so... Lin Sun stopped and looked at Dugi Yuran. From now on, I hope you and I won't interfere with each other and go our separate ways. Then, he turned around and continued forward. Dugi Yuran was stunned. She had never thought that she would be the one to bear the responsibility for killing Zhu Lin. But not only did he not appreciate her kindness, his attitude was even so cold and indifferent. and he seemed to take her to be a dreadful monster. In the next moment, she chased after him and said, "Hey, aren't you worried that the Zhu clan will cause trouble for you? At least if you travel with me, you won't have to worry about these troubles. Moving together with you will only attract more trouble." Seeing that Dugi Yuran had caught up with him again, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel a headache. Didn't this girl know that she was the source of trouble? Dugu Yuran snorted coldly. "Ling Xuanzi, aren't you worried that I'll expose your identity?" Lin Sun rubbed his eyebrows and let out a long sigh. "Can you tell me why you have to get involved with me?" Seeing that Lin Sun was depressed, Dugu Yuran couldn't help but be amused. Others couldn't wait to pester her all the time, but this guy didn't like her and wanted her to disappear as soon as possible. She rolled her watery eyes and smiled sweetly. "I can't help it. You're my savior." Lin Sun immediately shut up and hurried forward. He had already begun a plan in his heart that he had to leave Tiger City as soon as possible and stay far away from this troublemaker. Dugi Yuran had been following him with a calm and leisurely expression, as if she didn't know that she was the troublemaker in Lin Sun's heart. When they arrived at the entrance of the inn, Dugi Yuran finally stopped and said with a sweet smile, "I didn't want to see what happened today either. But since it has happened, according to my temperament and nature, I won't let you suffer an unexpected disaster again. Remember, I mean what I say." After saying that, she turned around and left. Even though she was rejected by Lin Sun with a cold face all the way, she didn't show any trace of displeasure at this time. This made Lin Sun, who walked into the inn, finally understand what Cyan Sparrow said. This woman, surnamed Dugu, really couldn't be touched. If he touched her, he would cause trouble. How is it? That Dugu person is very difficult to deal with, right? Cyan Sparrow gloated in the room. Lin Sun wasn't annoyed. Instead, he asked, "Can you tell me about the eternal emperor clans in the eternal true world? It's not a secret. You'll know sooner or later." Cyan Sparrow spoke with fervor and assurance. The eternal true world was extremely vast. Its territory was divided into 9 layers of heaven, which were also known as the 9 great heavenly regions. Each layer of heaven was like a vast and boundless galaxy. It contained an unknown number of folded spaces, secret realms, and blessed lands. Among them, the eternal emperor clans who wielded earth-ranked order power were distributed from the 1st to the 6th layer of heaven. The eternal emperor clans who wielded heaven-ranked order power were distributed from the 7th layer of heaven. The 8th layer of heaven was controlled by the 10 most ancient eternal emperor clans. The heaven-ranked order power each of them wielded could be said to be supreme. These 10 ancient eternal emperor clans were also known as the 10 immortal powerhouses. As for the 9th layer of heaven, it was rumored that the eternal god clan occupied a supreme place. It was also known as the 9 heavens divine world. Since ancient times, almost no one could enter the 9 heavens divine world. For the countless living beings in the eternal true world, the 9th layer of heaven was the true place of eternity. This was the territory division of the eternal true world. In order to determine how powerful an immortal emperor clan's foundation was, one had to see which heaven domain the clan was located in and what position they had in that heaven domain. For example, the Permitha Luo family controlled an earth-ranked order power, and their clan was located in the 6th heaven. According to Cyan Sparrow, when Skirich's master Luo Tontian was still alive, the Luo family had always occupied the 7th heaven. They even had the opportunity to challenge the 10 immortal powerhouses distributed in the 8th heaven. They could be said to be glorious and boundless. However, after Luo Tontian disappeared, everything changed. In less than 1,000 years, the power and influence of the Luo family declined sharply. In order to survive, they had to move from the 7th heaven to the 6th heaven. Until now, the status of the Luo family in the 6th heaven has declined greatly, and they are far from being able to compete with some of the immortal emperor clans that control the earth-ranked order power. For example, the Wen, Peng, He, and Hung emperor clans, like the Luo family, are located in the 6th heaven. In contrast, among the emperor clans that control the earth-ranked order power, whether it is the Luo family or the 4 immortal emperor clans, they could be regarded as first-class existences. However, they can't be regarded as the top. Zhu Lin, who was killed by Lin Sun tonight, is from the Zhu family that controls the Earth-ranked order power. It can be regarded as one of the overlord forces of the sixth heaven. The Rong family behind Rong Xiangli is also comparable to the Zhu family. This is also the reason why Peng Tianxiang and Peng Qianhe swallow their anger when facing Zhu Lin and Rong Xiangli. They are inferior, so Dugu Yuran should be a noble figure from his seventh heaven. Lin Sun suddenly asked. Yes, Cyan Sparrow nodded. In the seventh heaven, there are many immortal emperor clans that control the power of the heaven-ranked order power. The Dugu family is one of the best. No wonder. Lin Sun remembered that when Peng Tianxiang, Rong Xiangli, Zhu Lin, and others treated Dugu Yuran, it wasn't just respect, but also awe. From this, it can be seen that the difference between controlling the Earth-ranked order power and controlling the heaven-ranked order power is completely different. You control two kinds of order power. One can be called the Earth-ranked order power, and the other is definitely the heaven-ranked order power. It's a pity that you haven't set foot on the path of immortality. Otherwise, with these two kinds of order power, it would be enough for you to establish an immortal foundation in the seventh heaven. Cyan Sparrow said with emotion. Lin Sun suddenly asked, what about the Yuan family? How is it compared to the Dugu family? Qin Ke replied vaguely. The Yuan clan and the Dugu clan have always been competitors. Although we don't have a deep grudge against each other, neither of them are willing to submit to the other. Over the years, the competition between the two clans has seeped into the bones of each clan. After a pause, Cyan Sparrow reminded, you are a person valued by my Mississippi. If my miss knows that you have a relationship with the Dugu family, she will definitely have some ideas, so I advise you to quickly draw a line with Dugu Yuran and go as far away as possible. What do you mean by a person valued by your miss? She was defeated by me in the Dark Parasol, Divine Mountain. Lin Sun almost rolled his eyes. Humph, that's because my miss is kind and didn't use some trump cards. Otherwise, do you really think I can't defeat you? Cyan Sparrow said contemptuously. Lin Sun didn't bother to argue with this proud bird. Trump cards? Who doesn't have a few? By the way, where is the realm battle tablet located? Lin Sun asked. At today's banquet, Peng Tianxiang talked about the battlefield of the gods, which made Lin Sun realize that if he wanted to participate, the first step was to leave his name on the realm battle tablet. On the way to the boundless 1,000 battle domains, Lin Sun had heard Cyan Sparrow say that the ranking of every cultivator on the realm battle tablet would affect the ranking of the universe they came from in the boundless 1,000 world. For example, the current first place in the boundless 1,000 world was the God's Rising star domain, and the second place was the Mysterious Sky star domain. These rankings were related to the rankings on the realm battle tablet. There are a total of 9 realm battle tablets, scattered in different immortal passes. It is rumored to be a mysterious boundary tablet that has been preserved from the last era, Cyan Sparrow said. This tablet is covered with a mysterious power of order and can communicate with the power of rules of the entire boundless 1,000 battle domains. Only experts with strong cultivation and extraordinary attainments on the Emperor's path can leave their names on it. It is incomparably mysterious. After a pause, Cyan Sparrow continued. As far as I know, there is such a realm battle tablet in the 9th Immortal Pass. The 9th Immortal Pass? Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. He suddenly remembered the promise he made with Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yu Duqiu in Starting City. P.S. Something unexpected happened today. Well, don't worry, everyone. We will do our best to erupt tomorrow. Chapter 2568. I just don't know why Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yu Duqiu are going to act together. Lin Sun pondered. Both of them were extremely powerful, and they were the best among the great emperors. Xiang Xiaoyuan, in particular, had a lot of obscure and mysterious aura, which made Lin Sun dare not underestimate her. Even they planned to invite him to travel together. It could be seen that what they were planning was not a trivial matter. Immediately, Lin Sun shook his head and stopped thinking about it. It was only the 2nd Immortal Pass, and he didn't know how long it would take to reach the 9th Immortal Pass. Lin Sun stretched out his hand and turned it over, and a mottled old bronze lamp emerged. This was the treasure he found in the 9th zone of the trial world of the starting city. Although its spirituality had been eroded, it still contained the immortal substance. Lin Sun had collected more than a dozen of such treasures in the 9th zone. These are for you. Lin Sun took out half of these treasures and handed them to Cyan Sparrow. For me? Cyan Sparrow was a little surprised. Are you really willing to give them to me? Lin Sun said angrily. You don't want them? Only a fool wouldn't want them. Cyan Sparrow said. She flapped her wings and released a green light to collect these treasures. She said happily, You're so strange. Why did you suddenly become so generous? Did you find your conscience? Although it's your miss who asked you to guide me on the way, how can I let you work for nothing? Take these gifts as a token of my sincerity. Lin Sun said casually and threw a bronze fragment into the abyssal sword cauldron. Crack! As soon as the bronze fragment fell into the abyssal sword cauldron, it suddenly exploded and was melted by the crystal-clear purple phoenix flame of order. In the end, only a strand of gray light like hair was left, releasing a pure, immortal aura. Although it was just a strand, it gave people the feeling that it was as majestic as a holy mountain, as if it could collapse the sky. Is this the immortal substance? Lin Sun's eyes were deep, and he sensed it carefully. He now knew that the immortal substance was an unparalleled divine material born in the source of immortality, and it was extremely valuable. Only peerless characters of the immortal realm could enter the land of the immortal Tao source to search for this treasure. Usually, even in the 9 great celestial regions of the eternal true world, the Tao essence of immortality was incredibly rare, which made the Tao essence of immortality even more valuable. The greatest use of the immortal substance was to refine immortal Tao soldiers. Apart from that, it could also be used to refine the immortal body. A complete immortal Tao weapon could even transform into a universe void and utilize the power of a realm. In fact, the quality and power of immortal Tao soldiers were classified by world energy. It was rumored that every immortal emperor clan used the power of order as the foundation of their clan, and used the immortal Tao soldiers as their clan's treasures. Some immortal emperor clans, with terrifying foundations, even controlled more than one immortal Tao weapon. For example, the Azure Sparrow had once inadvertently revealed that the one clan that when Xiaoheng was from possessed an eternal Tao weapon called the World Burial Coffin, and a single strike from it was capable of completely annihilating a large world. Its might was terrifying to the extreme. This might be just a tiny bit of undying matter, but if it was in the eternal true world, it would definitely be sold for an astronomical price that you would never expect. Bluebird pointed out from the side. What's the sky-high price? Lin Sun asked. At least 10 million eternal void origin crystals, right? Bluebird said, but under normal circumstances, no one would sell it. After all, this is a treasure that even the immortal emperor clans yearn for. Lin Sun was stunned. In that case, if the value of the treasures I gave you just now is added up, Bluebird immediately became vigilant and said, You can't go back on your word. It's useless even if you do. The corner of Lin Sun's mouth twitched. He kept his mouth shut, worried that if he said anything more, he would not be able to resist snatching back the treasures that he had given away. At this moment, there was also a change in the abyssal sword cauldron, which attracted Lin Sun's attention. He saw that the wisp of undying matter was melting bit by bit and being absorbed by the sword cauldron, producing a strange buzzing sound that sounded like a cheer. Lin Sun keenly noticed that there was a slight change in the quality of the abyssal sword cauldron, as if it had been reborn. Whoosh! Immediately, Lin Sun took out a broken flying sword and threw it into the abyssal sword cauldron. With a series of cracking sounds, the broken flying sword was quickly refined, leaving only a wisp of undying matter. The sword cauldron kept roaring, greedily and crazily absorbing that wisp of undying matter like a baby beast crying piteously for food. Lin Sun's black eyes lit up. He did not expect that his sword cauldron could absorb the power of undying matter, which was undoubtedly incredible. Isn't this imperial armament of yours a little too abnormal? Ordinary treasures are utterly unable to withstand the energy of eternal matter, and they would easily explode and be destroyed. Qin Kei cried out in surprise, her eyes widening. Could it be that this is because of the two order energies in your furnace? Lin Sun agreed with this point of view. The sword cauldron that was reforged in the peerless thunder tribulation with him had become incredible since the sword cauldron passed the heavenly tribulation last time. It was not like the legendary Emperor's weapon. After all, the power of the Emperor's weapon was not necessarily as terrible as that of the sword cauldron. Lin Sun clearly remembered that in the last heavenly tribulation, the sword cauldron had been magically nourished by the Order Phoenix Flame and the Nirvana Order when it was reforged after being broken. Perhaps it was because it was contaminated with the aura of the two kinds of power of order that the sword cauldron became completely different. Now, it could even bear and absorb the power of undying matter. If it continued to transform like this, sooner or later, it would transform into a magical and unpredictable immortal weapon. In for a penny, in for a pound. Lin Sun threw all the remaining treasures containing immortal substance into the abyssal sword cauldron. Crack! Crack! A burst of dense bursting sounds rang out. Inside the sword cauldron, a rain of light burst out, and the power roared. All the treasures were refined one by one, leaving the purest power of undying matter gradually. As the sword cauldron continued to absorb and integrate, a burst of cheer-like buzzing sounded incessantly. After the time it took to burn a stick of incense, under the gaze of Lin Sun and Cyan Sparrow, a marvelous mark emerged on the inner wall of the sword cauldron. It seemed to be the mark of the Great Way, giving off a misty rain of undying light, floating and flowing, sacred and illusory. Lin Sun noticed at once that the quality of the sword cauldron had undergone a great transformation, and its appearance and power also changed accordingly. Immediately, he took out a red saber, which was an extremely precious Emperor's weapon of spirit grade with unparalleled lethality. It could easily split mountains and seas and tear the sky apart. Clang! Lin Sun suppressed it with the sword cauldron. However, with a shocking roar, traces of cracks appeared on the surface of the red saber, as if it was about to fall apart. Lin Sun immediately withdrew his hand, and a touch of shock emerged in his heart. He had only casually probed the saber and did not use his true cultivation, but such a spirit-grade upper-level Emperor saber actually showed signs of being unable to be suppressed. It could be seen how terrifying the power of the transformed abyssal sword cauldron was. Cyan Sparrow couldn't help gasping. She stared at the abyssal sword cauldron and murmured, "I've lived for hundreds of thousands of years, but I've never seen such a weird treasure. It can't be measured by common sense at all. It's too abnormal." Cyan Sparrow looked at Lin Sun and said after a while, "Of course, you're more abnormal." Lin Sun was in a good mood and generously didn't care about it. He began to plan in his heart that if there was a chance in the future, he would collect more immortal substances. Maybe he could repair the broken sword, the 3,000 floating and sinking swords, and the Tower of Ceaseless one by one. The next morning, before dawn, Lin Sun left the inn and came to the east gate of Tiger Lying City. There was a space ferry here. As long as you held the token of passing the trial, you could take the Sun and Moon shuttle from the ferry and continue to the next destination. The so-called Sun and Moon shuttle was a kind of treasure shaped like a shuttle, branded with a unique restriction, which could shuttle through the void and carry out teleportation. Similarly, only the restriction of the Sun and Moon shuttle could sense the direction of the next destination in the following journey. Therefore, no matter how powerful one was, he had to choose to take this shuttle to leave. When Lin Sun arrived, a Sun and Moon shuttle was already parked in front of the space ferry. After handing over the token given by Peng Tianxiang, Lin Sun boarded the strange treasure ship smoothly. The treasure ship was spacious. When Lin Sun arrived, there were already dozens of Emperor Realm cultivators waiting inside, but no familiar faces. Lin Sun randomly found a seat, closed his eyes, and pretended to sleep. Leaving Tiger Lying City, Lin Sun needed to pass through more than a dozen dangerous and bloody battlefields to reach the third immortal pass. With Cyan Sparrow's guidance, Lin Sun didn't have to worry about anything. With my current cultivation, it's already sufficient to go against an ancestor of one Dao, like Hung Tianxia. I just don't know if I'll be able to truly rely on my own cultivation to completely trample over the natural chasm of an ancestor of one Dao once my cultivation attains the Dao fusion realm, Lin Sun thought. The Dao integration stage was the 8th stage of the Emperor realm. However, Lin Sun's current cultivation base was only at the early stage of the 7th rank Emperor realm. He didn't know how long it would take for him to reach the Dao integration stage. The Great Thousand Battle Realms might be dangerous, but it's undoubtedly a great training ground. Before I reach the Eternal True World, I definitely won't have to worry about not being able to break through to the Dao fusing realm. Lin Sun was sure of this. It had only been half a year since he had entered the vast Thousand Battle domain, but he had already obtained many experiences and opportunities. Even his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Under such circumstances, it was only a matter of time before he broke through to the 8th level of Emperor Realm, as long as there weren't any unexpected changes. Oh, what a coincidence! Fellow Taoist Jean, are you also planning to leave today? Suddenly, a delightful laughter, as sweet as the sounds of nature, came into Lin Sun's ears. Lin Sun's body stiffened imperceptibly, and he felt a headache. P.S. Before 7 p.m., even staying up late tonight will explode. Library of Literature. Chapter 2569. Before opening his eyes, Lin Sun smelled a trace of body fragrance that was as elegant as orchid, refreshing his mind. However, Lin Sun didn't feel happy at all. On the contrary, his mood became worse. He closed his eyes and pretended to turn a deaf ear. But the next moment, he noticed that the woman who made him feel a headache had already sat down beside him unceremoniously. I've only heard of people who deceive themselves before, but I've never seen a guy who can pretend not to know anything with his eyes closed. A sweet, tinkling voice sounded with a hint of ridicule. Lin Sun couldn't help but sigh. He opened his eyes and turned to look at the delicate, beautiful, pure, and white smiling face beside him, saying, "Out of sight, out of mind." This beautiful woman in a green robe dressed as a man was naturally Dugi Yuran. She pursed her lips and smiled, revealing a row of crystal white teeth. Her eyes were curved, and she said, "But you've opened your eyes now. That's why I'm upset now," Lin Sun said grumpily. Dugi Yuran raised her eyebrows and said, "It doesn't matter, as long as I'm happy." Lin Sun was speechless and simply closed his eyes again. The reason why he left in a hurry so early was to avoid Dugi Yuran, the troublemaker. Who would have thought that he was still followed all the way? At this time, they were already on the Sun-Moon shuttle, and it was destined that they couldn't leave again. Seeing Lin Sun's conflicted look, Dugi Yuran didn't care at all and continued. "Last night, I made my attitude clear to the Zhu clan with some help, so you don't have to worry about the Zhu clan sending people to deal with you again." Lin Sun was stunned, but he still closed his eyes. He was not afraid of trouble, but he was afraid that trouble would keep coming to him. And Dugi Yuran was obviously a big trouble, a source of trouble. "Ling Xuanzi, if you don't open your eyes, I'll call out your identity loudly," Dugi Yuran said. As expected, Lin Sun opened his eyes, but his face was very gloomy. He stared at the beautiful woman beside him, who was as bright as the moon in the sky, and said, "Aren't you worried that I'll suppress you out of anger?" Dugi Yuran shrank her head and said, "You're so powerful that you want to suppress me. Should I scream in horror now?" Lin Sun was speechless. "All right, I'm just teasing you. Look at how angry you are. Is there a need to be like this?" Dugi Yuran smiled brilliantly. At this moment, a pleasantly surprised voice rang out. "Yuran, you're here too." The smile on Dugi Yuran's face froze. Her slender body stiffened. His previous high-spirited and cheerful appearance had also disappeared without a trace. Lin Sun almost laughed out. How could you have such a day? It was Peng Tianxiang who was infatuated with Dugi Yuran. Lin Sun immediately stood up and warmly invited Peng Tianxiang, who had just entered the Sun-Moon shuttle. "Brother Peng, come and sit here." He immediately gave up his seat. Just as Dugi Yuran was about to get up, Lin Sun pressed his shoulder and sat back down. You two are old acquaintances. Since you happen to meet each other, you should have a good chat. Peng Tianxiang glanced at Lin Sun gratefully and sat down where Lin Sun had originally sat. He said with a smile, it's really a coincidence that Brother Jean is also here. That's even better. We won't be lonely on the way if we act together. Lin Sun also laughed and nodded repeatedly. He sat on the opposite seat and looked at Dugi Yuran, who was as listless as a frosted eggplant. Lin Sun felt very happy. Dugi Yuran's expression was uncertain. After a while, he snorted coldly. Is it really a coincidence? I don't believe it. Although Peng Tianxiang looked a little embarrassed, he still said enthusiastically, Yuran, I also brought the pair of 3-inch lotus fish. Have a look. As he said, he took out a jade gourd and handed it to Dugi Yuran. Dugi Yuran closed his eyes directly and said, I have to take a good rest. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. Peng Tianxiang put away the jade gourd and said softly with gentle eyes, then have a good rest. I will never let others disturb you. Lin Sun clearly saw that Dugi Yuran seemed to be grinding his teeth. This almost made him laugh out loud, and he gave Peng Tianxiang a thumbs up without a trace. Peng Tianxiang smiled slightly, as if he had been encouraged and was in high spirits. Brother Jean, I have already told him that this time the sun and moon shuttle can directly take us to the third pass of immortality. Peng Tianxiang looked at Lin Sun and said with a smile, in this way, we can avoid many dangers and troubles on the way. Lin Sun was stunned and asked, how long will it take to reach the third pass of immortality? 1 month at least, 2 months at most, Peng Tianxiang said after some consideration. Lin Sun was speechless. Didn't this mean that he had to stay with Dugi Yuran, the troublemaker, for at least a month? At this time, the treasure ship was completely boiling. The emperors on the sun and moon shuttle were all beaming with joy. To them, being able to avoid the dangers and murderous tribulations along the way was naturally the best outcome. As a noble, Peng Tianxiang also received a lot of compliments and flattery, especially when his beloved girl was sitting beside him. He was glowing. However, both Dugi Yuran and Lin Sun seemed to be absent-minded and had their own troubles. Whoosh! Before long, the sun and moon shuttle turned into a stream of light and flew away with everyone. As Peng Tianxiang said, they didn't encounter any danger along the way. It could be seen that Peng Tianxiang, a noble from the immortal emperor family, must have used the power of his family to achieve this step. 1 month later, the third pass of immortality, Lucky Wind City. As soon as they arrived, Lin Sun and Dugi Yuran, who walked out of the sun and moon shuttle, couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. We finally arrived. Lin Sun sighed with emotion. Although it was very smooth along the way, Lin Sun always felt a headache from time to time when he was with Dugi Yuran. Yes, we finally arrived. Dugi Yuran also sighed. The existence of Peng Tianxiang made her feel uncomfortable along the way. What annoyed her most was that no matter how she beat sarcastically and satirized, but Peng Tianxiang didn't get annoyed at all. On the contrary, he became more and more enthusiastic and affectionate, which made her feel a headache. The Lord of Lucky Wind City is a senior of He family, who has a good relationship with our Peng family. When we enter the city, I will arrange a place for you two to stay. Peng Tianxiang said enthusiastically. Don't. Lin Sun and Dugi Yuran said in unison. Peng Tianxiang was stunned and said heroically, don't refuse. It's just a small matter. Leave it to me. Lin Sun really didn't want to go with Dugi Yuran anymore, so he said directly, I have something to do, so I'll go first. Brother Peng, you can arrange a place for Miss Yuran. After that, he left in a hurry. Peng Tianxiang couldn't help being moved and grateful. Brother Jean, how could I not know that you are creating a condition for me and Yuran to stay alone? You're my brother. I'm definitely making friends with you. At this time, Dugi Yuran also quickened her pace and hurried to the city gate. Yuran, wait. Peng Tianxiang didn't dare to think too much and caught up with her. Why do you still follow me? Do you know that I have tolerated you all the way? Dugi Yuran finally couldn't stand it, and her eyes were full of impatience. Peng Tianxiang was stunned and said, Yuran, I just want to do something for you. The sun, the moon, and the heaven and earth can prove my sincerity. There is no other intention. Dugi Yuran let out a long sigh. This guy was really a cowhide plaster. Obviously, he planned to pester her all the time. Miss Yuran, what a coincidence. I was going to see you in Tiger City, but I didn't expect to see you here. Suddenly, a young man in a silver robe walked out of the city gate. He was handsome, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. He looked at Dugi Yuran with surprise and a smile. Peng Tianxiang's face changed slightly, showing vigilance. Dugi Yuran rubbed the tip of her eyebrows. She suddenly understood why Lin Sun regarded her as a scourge. No matter where she went, there would be some guys who obviously came prepared but pretended to be coincidental. It was simply impossible to guard against and extremely vexing. Just like this young man in a silver robe. How could he appear so coincidentally? Nobody would believe such an excuse. Not long after the young man in a silver robe appeared, a hearty laugh resounded through the sky. It's really you, Yuran. I heard from Rong Xiangli that Zhu Lin dared to disrespect you and offend your savior in front of you. How arrogant he is. If I meet the people of Zhu family in the future, I must ask for an explanation for you. In the void, a tall and handsome figure appeared out of thin air. He was dressed in a white robe and wore a high crown on his head. He was majestic and handsome, like a dragon among men. His demeanor caused a sensation near the city gate. Peng Tianxiang's face darkened. The young man in a silver robe who had just arrived also showed a trace of hostility. But the white-robed man didn't care at all. He floated down the ground and walked towards Dugi Yuran. He said, Yuran, let me protect you on the journey in the future so that trash like Zhu Lin doesn't disturb your mood. His words were so domineering that he didn't put Zhu Lin in his eyes at all. Obviously, this man in a white robe had a more powerful background, but it was far from over. Soon, another person came, riding a purple chariot and wearing a golden armor. Like an emperor patrolling the world, he roared through the sky and landed on the field. Soon after, a clear cry of a crane was heard. An extraordinarily handsome man in black clothes, riding on an incomparably spirited green crane, floated over. For a moment, the outside of Fengji City was very lively. However, Peng Tianxiang's face was extremely ugly, as if he had eaten a fly. Do you see? You will suffer a lot of trouble if you follow me. Dugi Yuran sighed and felt pity for Peng Tianxiang. Peng Tianxiang squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying and said, I don't care about these things. His words attracted many hostile gazes, causing his body to stiffen. But he still gritted his teeth and stood beside Dugi Yuran, not taking a step back. Follow me. Dugi Yuran couldn't bear it anymore. In any case, Peng Tianxiang had accompanied him all the way. Even though it was annoying, Dugi Yuran couldn't not appreciate it. After saying that, Dugi Yuran walked forward. From the beginning to the end, he didn't look at those dazzling figures who rushed over. Peng Tianxiang was wild with joy, and he grinned from ear to ear. He followed up step by step, completely disregarding those murderous gazes. On the contrary, he felt an indescribable excitement. Miss Yuran still cares about me. P.S. The third watch is around 9:30. Chapter 2570. Lin Sun did not know what had happened outside the city gate. Even if he knew, he would only be glad that he had left in time. Otherwise, it would be unimaginable. Cyan Sparrow, tell me how to leave the third pass of immortality as soon as possible. Anything that can be solved with money is not a problem, Lin Sun asked quickly. Ever since Cyan Sparrow obtained a batch of treasures containing immortal substances, she had become more attentive towards Lin Sun. She immediately gave him some pointers without hesitation. In the end, Lin Sun paid 20 million eternal void source crystals on the same day and obtained the right to pass the trial. He left on the same day. Money makes the world go round. The ancients were right. Even in the great 1,000 battle domains, it was still applicable. It all depended on whether one could afford the price that ordinary martial emperors could not afford. When Dugu Yuran heard the news, she could not help but feel angry and amused. Does this guy really think of himself as a god of plague? Dugu Yuran could not help but grit her teeth. In the eternal true world, she could not stand the matchmaking arranged by the elders of her clan. Hence, she came to the great 1,000 battle domains in the name of traveling. But she did not expect that there would still be many lascivious people chasing after her even after she came to the great 1,000 battle domains. Peng Tianxiang, Zhu Lin, Rong Xiangli, and the other dazzling people who had been chasing after her were all the same. This annoyed her to no end. But Dugu Yuran did not expect that Ling Xuanzi was the only one who saw her as a scourge and did not want to stay with her for even a moment longer. It was as if she would skin him alive. This was the first time Dugu Yuran, who had been surrounded and protected by the elders of her clan, experienced such a feeling for the first time. She was smart, so she naturally knew about the tricks of loosening the reins only to grasp them better and casting a long line to catch a big fish. In the past, there was no lack of people who pursued her like this, but she scoffed at such tricks. Only Lin Sun was the only one who did not hide the fact that he saw her as a scourge. This made her feel angry and amused at the same time. How could there be such a person in this world? Did he not know that with just one casual sentence, he would be able to reach the eternal true world without having to face any danger? You even spent 20 million eternal void source crystals. You paid such a huge price just to avoid me. You are simply preposterous. Dugu Yuran muttered to himself. Young Miss Yuran, since your savior has already left, there's no need to think too much about it. I think he must have left due to an urgent matter. The man who had driven the purple chariot oversaid with a smile. He wore golden armor, had a heroic bearing, and was peerlessly elegant. He himself was a peak 8th level great emperor, and his background was extraordinary. With his status, even the lord of this city had to be courteous to him. But at this time, Dugu Yuran said impatiently, "How do you know he's in a hurry? I don't need you to worry about me." Everyone looked at each other in bewilderment, and they didn't understand why Dugu Yuran would be so furious. Peng Tianxiang, come with me to chase after that guy. Since he's my benefactor, how can I owe him a favor and not return it? I want to see where he can hide. Dugu Yuran made a decision. Peng Tianxiang nodded hurriedly, feeling excited. Even if Dugu Yuran's attitude towards him was still not very good, but it was better than others. Otherwise, why didn't she ask others to go with her, but only him? They watched Dugu Yuran and Peng Tianxiang leave. Those powerful figures with extraordinary backgrounds could not help but frown. Jean Dui? Who is this guy? Why does Yuran care so much about him? Someone was puzzled. It's dangerous. Could it be that Yuran likes this guy? Someone looked gloomy. How can a person from the vast thousand world attract Yuran's attention? In my opinion, Yuran just doesn't want to owe him a favor. Someone was disdainful. Jean D. No matter what the reason is, since Yuran cares so much about him, we must get rid of him. Someone's eyes were full of killing intent. This was the power of Dugu Yuran. How could ordinary people bear the hostility of her pursuers? Fortunately, Lin Sun had left early, otherwise there would be another storm. Time flew by quickly. Lin Sun walked alone, passing through the dangerous battlefield and the strange and ominous starry sky. He fought all the way. It was bloody all the way. Without Dugu Yuran, the annoying troublemaker, there were no more trivial and troublesome things. All of a sudden, Lin Sun liked the process of walking alone. The Emperor's road was a struggle for supremacy. The road of cultivation was a process of seeking personal transformation. It was destined to be full of twists and turns, and it was destined not to be calm and peaceful. Only by walking out of danger, surviving between life and death, and honing oneself in killing could one achieve breakthroughs again and again. Indeed, along the way, Lin Sun had frequently encountered unpredictable dangers and even suffered fatal threats many times. But every time he turned misfortune into blessing, it was a kind of consolidation for his own cultivation, which was a rare and precious accumulation. Those who had not experienced life and death dangers could not talk about the great way. Half a year after leaving Lucky Wind City, it was the first year in 3 months since Lin Sun entered the vast Thousand Battle domain. Lin Sun entered the fourth immortal pass, Travel Worn. He spent a day selling all the treasures he had collected along the way, as long as they were of no use to him. Then, he bought 5 underworld pearls. Without much delay, Lin Sun continued on his journey after completing the training in the governor's mansion. 1 year and 7 months after entering the vast Thousand Battle domain, Lin Sun entered the 5th immortal pass. It was also this time that Lin Sun received an unexpected piece of news. His identity had been exposed. Even the wanted list hanging on the city wall was marked with Lin Sun's name. This shocked Lin Sun. After careful investigation, he found out that it was an expert from the Nirvana Luo family who spread the news. The Nirvana Luo family. Lin Sun frowned. This unexpected situation caught him off guard. But after thinking about it carefully, he could roughly understand how the Nirvana Luo family deduced it. In the eternal true world, the force that understood the starry sky ancient path the most was undoubtedly the Nirvana Luo family. As for Lin Sun, he was the only person to become an emperor in the past 100,000 years. Moreover, the Nirvana Luo family viewed him as a thorn in their flesh. Under such circumstances, if they knew that his identity as Ling Xuanzi also came from the starry sky ancient path, they would definitely have some clues. How did the Nirvana Luo family find out about this so quickly? This probably had a lot to do with the wanted notice that was posted on every city in the 49 immortal passes. After all, Ling Xuanzi was ranked 9th and came from the starry sky ancient path. How could the Nirvana Luo family not be suspicious? It seems that the Nirvana Luo family already knows that I'm about to cross the vast Thousand Battle domains and head to the eternal true world. No, maybe they've already started to take action. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep. He realized that his situation was likely to be filled with danger. However, he was not afraid. With his current cultivation and the trump cards in his hands, he was not afraid of fighting with the Nirvana Luo family in the vast Thousand Battle domains. Moreover, after careful consideration, Lin Sun felt that this was not a bad thing. At the very least, he could directly test some of the Nirvana Luo family strength. "I like to see when you'll show up." Lin Sun saw that his ranking on the wanted list had suddenly soared to the 3rd place. The reason was that the Nirvana Luo family had also stepped in and announced that he was wanted. They even offered a bounty of 20 million eternal void crystals. In addition to the bounty offered by the One family and the Hung family, he had accumulated to 26 million eternal void crystals. It was only 1 million less than the bounty offered by the Blade Bearer, who was ranked 2nd. It was 4 million less than the bounty offered by the Tsang Fuxing, who was ranked 1st. Moreover, the Nirvana Luo family had specially marked on the wanted list that whoever could capture Lin Sun alive and hand him over to the Nirvana Luo family would receive 10 times the reward. When Lin Sun saw this, his eyes could not help but narrow. In fact, this wanted list had already caused a stir in the vast Thousand Battle domains. Many experts had seen it and could not help but speculate what this Lin Sun, who used to change his name to Ling Xuanzi, had done to make the Nirvana Luo family go to war. This matter was sensational and had a significant effect. Many peerless figures who thought that they had extraordinary backgrounds could not help but be interested in this matter. Since ancient times, money could move people's hearts. Even the ancestor of a Tao would not be able to resist if he offered tempting conditions. It could be foreseen that after this matter, once Lin Sun's identity was exposed, he would definitely be regarded as prey by some ruthless people. Unfortunately, Lin Sun was no longer the same as before. With his current cultivation, if he wanted to hide his identity, even the ancestor of a Tao would make a mistake. However, Lin Sun also found that in the wanted list, the Nirvana Luo family had already marked all his characteristics clearly. Even the Abyssal Sword Cauldron was vividly shown. In other words, as long as he used the Abyssal Sword Cauldron, his identity would definitely be exposed. In order to deal with me, they really put in a lot of effort. In a restaurant, Lin Sun drank by himself with a calm expression. He did not care about these things. After all was said and done, he was no longer the same as before. At his level of attainment, perhaps only the undying existences that had transcended the ancestor realm could make him feel fear. A few days later, Lin Sun left the fifth heaven gate of immortality and embarked on his journey again. Even if his identity was exposed, at least it would not affect his actions for the time being. Not long after Lin Sun left, outside the fifth heaven gate of immortality, a man and a woman appeared out of thin air. They were Dugi Yuran and Peng Tianxiang. When she saw the wanted list hanging on the city gate, Dugi Yuran could not help but be startled. A strange light flashed in her clear eyes, and the corners of her lips slightly raised. What a big liar. The third chapter is here. There will be a fourth chapter tonight. Try to finish it before midnight. Chapter 2571. Ling Xuanzi's ranking has soared so much, and his original identity is Lin's son. Who is he? A ruthless character from the star Ancient Path? Peng Tianxiang didn't notice these abnormalities. He didn't know that Jin Dui, whom he regarded as a good brother, was Lin's son, who was ranked third on the wanted list. He only saw Dugu Yuran's gaze being attracted by the name. He's a big bad guy, a big liar, Dugu Yuran commented with a smile. Seeing her smile, Peng Tianxiang's spirits rose. He remembered his third uncle Peng China's advice. Think what she thinks, worry about what she worries about. The spring breeze and rain will nourish everything silently. He immediately said, Yuran, since you hate this person so much, why don't I also put him on the wanted list in the name of the Peng family? Hey, Yuran, what's wrong? Wait for me. Before he could finish, he saw Dugu Yuran walking toward the city gate with a dark expression. This made Peng Tianxiang want to cry. What was going on? Wasn't this woman changing her attitude a little too fast? The 36th city of the Immortal Fortress. This was a city controlled by the Luo family. At this moment, in the city lord's mansion, a beautiful woman with a graceful bearing and picturesque appearance spoke with a chilly voice that carried a wisp of pride and aloofness. Fifth uncle, I've been in charge of the bounty on the star Ancient Path powerhouses for many years. This time, I was also the first to see through Lin Sun's identity, so I should be the one to deal with this matter. The woman's beautiful eyes were indifferent. She was the most dazzling pearl of the Luo family, Luo Ling. She was a peerless beauty with unparalleled talent. When Xiaoheng didn't hesitate to go to great lengths to capture Lin Sun because of this woman, just to win her favor. A group of cultivators from the Luo family sat in the main hall. The leader was the city lord, Luo Yunfeng, an emperor ancestor with unfathomable cultivation. He was also Luo Ling's fifth uncle. Your sixth uncle, seventh uncle, and ninth uncle all died in the star Ancient Path. Among them, your ninth uncle was killed by Mount Fangsuan's eldest disciple, the Battle Emperor. Your seventh uncle died in the Immortal Phoenix realm. Your sixth uncle died in the Kunlun ruins. Rumor has it that he was killed by Mount Fangsuan's second disciple, Zhong Xiao. On the main seat, Luo Yunfeng's expression was cold as he said, Linger, do you know how heavy these losses are? In the sixth heaven, many major forces have clamored to expel our Luo family to the fifth heaven. A hint of ruthlessness appeared between his brows, and his expression was gloomy. At that time, our Luo family was a powerful imperial family that stood in the seventh heaven. He is an existence that can challenge the 10 immortal giants of the eighth heaven. The hall was silent, and only Luo Yunfeng's voice resounded. A gloomy expression appeared on the faces of all the cultivators from the Luo clan, and they became indeterminate. Luo Ling said in a low voice, I know. This is because our race's supreme innate ability was lost, which is why we've fallen to such a state. That's why I decided to deal with Lin Sun personally. As long as I catch him, my clan will have the possibility to rise again and restore the glory of the past. Luo, Yunfeng grunted coldly. Then do you think that you can accomplish this with the power you control? Without waiting for an answer, he said coldly, He is the descendant of the Fangsun Mountain. He is now a peak 7th level emperor, and when he entered the starting city, he started a massacre and killed Hung Tianxua in a head-on battle. More importantly, he also has the strongest innate ability of our clan, and it is very likely that he has awakened the second stage of his innate ability. In the end, Luo Yunfeng couldn't help but feel a strong sense of jealousy in his heart. The Great Abyss Devourer. This is simply the worry of all the elders of the Luo family. In the past, the Lord of Tongtian relied on this innate ability to lay a huge foundation for the Luo family in one fell swoop. The power of the Luo family shook the seventh heaven, suppressing countless overlords that controlled the heavenly order. That kind of glory was unparalleled. Even the 10 immortal giants of the eighth heaven were not put in the eyes of the Lord of Tongtian. That domineering attitude still echoed in the eighth heaven. But now, with the mysterious disappearance of the Lord of Tongtian and the loss of the Great Abyss Devourer bloodline, everything has changed. Now, the foundation of the entire Luo family in the sixth heaven even shows signs of wavering. This gap is too great. How can an elder of the Luo family, like Luo Yunfeng, not be angry? All of this is because of the loss of that innate ability. But now, such an innate ability has appeared in the hands of a young man, not surnamed Luo, which made Luo Yunfeng jealous and angry. Now, tell me, what do you have to capture that little bastard alive? Luo Yunfeng stared at Luo Ling coldly. All the eyes in the hall turned to Luo Ling. I also have means that can pose a fatal threat to the Emperor Ancestor. Luo Ling was silent for a moment, then took a deep breath and said, Moreover, I can also unite the forces of the Hung family and the One family to deal with this person. Luo Yunfeng sneered. Ling, you still don't understand what the Great Abyss Devourer bloodline represents. It is the strongest innate ability of our clan, enough to threaten the great forces of the seventh heaven. Remember, never underestimate this innate ability that originally belonged to our clan. As he finished speaking, he spoke word by word in a powerful and resounding voice that revealed extraordinary pressure. Luo Ling became more and more silent. After a long time, she said, Even if I have to pay the price of my life, I will capture this person alive. After saying that, she stood up and walked out of the hall. Some old people got up and wanted to stop her, but they were stopped by Luo Yunfeng. Let her go. I want to see if she can do it well. After a pause, his eyes flashed, and he said, What's more, if I'm not wrong, she still carries that treasure with her. It may play a miraculous role in dealing with that kid. After leaving the fifth immortal gate, along the way, Lin Sun accelerated his pace. And according to the guidance of Cyan Sparrow, from the fifth heaven gate to the ninth heaven gate, there are less than 10 dangerous and unpredictable battlefield planes. The distance has been greatly reduced, but the danger has greatly increased. Ordinary great emperors had to travel in groups in order to survive. Even peak-level emperors have to be cautious, otherwise they will die on the way. In fact, Lin Sun did experience the horror and danger of this road. He experienced bloody killings and suffered a lot. There were several times when he had to rely on the power of the forbidden passing divine ability to seize a chance to escape, and luckily escape. The reason was that those battlefields were full of unimaginable weirdness and ominousness, almost all of which were related to the horrible things of the last era. But the harvest was also huge. By the time they reached the 8th Immortal Pass, the number of eternal void source crystals they had exchanged for the treasures they had collected had reached a staggering 15 million. In addition, his cultivation had been further improved and entered the late stage of the 7th Heaven Gate, but there was still a long way to go before he reached the mastery. Even so, this kind of progress could be regarded as amazing. At least in the outside world, there was no chance for him to experience so many dangers and get so many opportunities to transform himself. Along the way, the continuous killing, the blood, and the tempering of life and death, Lin Sun's temperament and power had become more and more indifferent. It was as if the prosperity had fallen and everything had returned to its original state. It was as quiet as the abyss and as calm as a furnace. When thrown into a crowd, They were like all the phenomena in the world. They could be seen everywhere, and there was nothing strange about them. But in the eyes of the real, powerful figures, they could see the great mystery hidden in the ordinariness. It was as deep as the abyss, so its power was immeasurable. This was the manifestation of the extreme tempering and the extreme returning to the truth. Illusory and real, I am the truth. The so-called cultivation was to cultivate such truth. There was no need for the power of the Great Way to embellish it, because one was the embodiment of the Great Way. When he left the eighth immortal gate, Lin Sun suddenly thought of one thing. Half a year had passed, but the Emperor Assassin Shuang from the Hidden Void World hadn't shown up yet. Was the Hidden Void World going to give up? It had been 2.5 years since he left the first immortal gate and arrived at the eighth immortal gate. Lin Sun almost forgot about it if he hadn't had a sudden impulse. If they want to deal with me, the ninth immortal gate is an opportunity. Lin Sun's eyes were clear, and he made a prediction. Whether it was the Heng family, the Wen family, the Luo family, or Shuang, if they wanted to seize the opportunity to deal with him, they must do it in the ninth immortal gate. The reason was simple. The ninth immortal gate had a boundary battle tablet, and he would definitely not miss this opportunity. As long as these enemies made a slight prediction, even if it was for a rainy day preparation, they would definitely make arrangements in advance. Lin Sun was not surprised by this. The conquest and tempering along the way had made his state of mind more and more tenacious, and he was no longer a newbie who knew nothing about the vast thousand battle domains. He was very clear that on this bloody road of no return, he could only move forward bravely. There was no room for retreat. What descendant of the immortal emperor family? What peerless giant? What ancestor? If he wanted to live, he had to be stronger than others. Lin Sun had been walking alone since he was young. He was used to storms and ups and downs. His heart of Taoism had long been tempered into an invincible will. It wasn't blind arrogance, but a kind of absolute conceit that came from his own cultivation. On the Emperor's road, he was invincible. Only in this way could he persist on the road that had never existed in the past and present, suppress his peers, and transcend the ages. On this day, Lin Sun set off again, embarking on the journey to the ninth immortal gate. This catastrophe will come eventually. It is inevitable. The bloody storm will surge in the ninth immortal gate. In an ancient battlefield relic, a monk in linen clothes with a thin figure stood there. It was Yin Lu, the monk of the small thunder temple, who entered the gate of the earth and earth realm with Lin Sun. At this moment, he seemed to have a feeling in his heart. He put his palms together, looked up into the distance, and a mysterious light of Zen appeared in his eyes. For a moment, in his pupils, there were scenes of a reign of blood, the collapse of heaven and earth, the fall of emperors, and the collapse of all things. Horror was boundless. P.S. Here's the fourth update. Although it's a little late, I'm relieved that I didn't break my promise. By the way, Goldfish just noticed that there are double monthly votes these days, so I'm begging for it. Chapter 2572. Yin Lu let out a muffled groan. His eyes, which were filled with terrifying and bloody scenes, suddenly dimmed. Everything is filled with variables when it comes to the successor of Minuscule Mountain. Yin Lu let out a sigh. He cultivated the future Buddhist scripture of the minor thunderclap temple, and he was most proficient in seeing through the secrets of the heavens and predicting the future. This scripture was also regarded as a hidden prophecy technique. If he encountered an ordinary person, he only needed a glance to see through that person's fate. Even the fate of an ordinary cultivator couldn't escape his foresight. Unfortunately, the Tao of destiny was supreme, and it was related to the secrets of eternity. What he could predict was merely the slightest clue, and it was extremely blurry. Just like at this moment, he saw some signs and judged that a calamity was about to appear in the ninth pass of immortality. However, it was impossible to deduce which peerless figures would be involved in this calamity. Even if Yin Lu exhausted all his cultivation, he still couldn't predict it. Yin Lu was very clear that this was related to his cultivation, but more importantly, this calamity was related to a person, the successor of minuscule mountain. Destiny is unpredictable. No one can escape whether it's a blessing or a curse. Yun Lu murmured. Blood flowed from his cracked lips, but he didn't seem to notice it at all. In the third year after he entered the vast Thousand Battles domain, Lin Sun finally arrived at the ninth pass after overcoming all obstacles and trekking on a dangerous path. In the dark and silent universe, an enormous and majestic ancient city floated in space and emitted a myriad of divine radiances. Even further away from the city was a black curtain of night. It was like the curtain of the sky had fallen, and it was the background of the city. If one stood in the sky above the city and looked down, one could clearly see some blurry scenery of mountains and rivers in the distant black curtain of night. There were even the shadows of terrifying creatures that were faintly discernible, and they emitted terrifying howls that shook the vast universe. The black curtain of night was not simple, and it was like a mysterious and dangerous place. This was the ninth pass of immortality. The vast and enormous city that floated in the universe was called Grand Unity. Completely different from the previous 8 passes of immortality, Tai's city was extremely vast and magnificent, like the heart of this universe, sacred and brilliant, bathed in the rain of light. Finally, Lin Sun let out a long breath. On the way to the ninth pass of immortality, he had experienced dozens of bloody battles. Especially recently, when he passed by a dilapidated ancient temple that had survived from the last era. Because he took a fancy to the bronze halberd in the hands of a clay statue, he unexpectedly suffered a fatal blow when he tried to collect it. The bronze halberd seemed to be extremely rotten, yet revealed boundlessly terrifying might. Merely a single strike was capable of splitting the sky apart and shattering the earth, and it was formidable to an extreme degree. Lin Sun fought hard with it for several days and suffered numerous injuries. He was almost killed several times. Finally, with the help of Forbidden Death, he completely suppressed this strange bronze halberd. Unfortunately, the bronze halberd, as if it had exhausted its strength. The halberd burst into pieces at the moment. Lin Sun was speechless. He'd fought desperately for nothing in the end. Actually, such incidents weren't rare during this period of time. He'd journeyed all along the way, but still caused Lin Sun to be depressed. Perhaps the only benefit was that experiencing this battle allowed him to obtain a rare tempering, and his attainments had accumulated to an inconceivable state. After he left the dilapidated temple, Lin Sun directly arrived at the universe where the ninth pass of immortality resided. At this moment, his entire body was covered in bloodstains, his hair was disheveled, and he seemed to be in a sorry state. However, strands of faint killing intent coiled around his body, and it seemed to be peerlessly condensed. He was like a fiend god that had just slaughtered his way out from an ancient mountain of corpses and an ocean of blood. Lin Sun seemed to be extremely conspicuous when he appeared in this expanse of the starry sky. All the cultivators that flew past him looked over, but when they met Lin Sun's gaze, they were instantly horrified and felt as if they'd fallen into an icy pit. That piercingly cold, murderous gaze could practically seal one's throat upon contact with it. How terrifying! Who's this? He traveled alone and was able to arrive at the ninth pass of immortality alive. That's very rare. Discussions that revealed surprise and bewilderment resounded. However, all of them revealed astounded expressions when they looked at Lin Sun once more. At this moment, the man that caused them to be horrified from just a glance at him seemed like an ordinary person, and there wasn't a trace of imposing aura emanating from him at all. Even if they sensed him carefully, they were unable to notice any fluctuations of energy. It was like he'd become a completely different person. Lin Sun paid no attention to these gazes, and his figure flashed and vanished into thin air. 2 groups of Emperor Realm guards stood at both sides of the lofty and ancient city gate, and there were 2 Ninth Realm founding ancestors amongst them. It was a terrifying lineup. The ninth pass of immortality isn't simple at all, and it's filled with profundities. Numerous formidable figures have transformed here in the past. The green sparrow provided guidance. According to it, 9 was a special number that changed according to its limits, and it was extraordinary. And this city was also known as the land of refining Tao. There are the most primitive and powerful laws here, and choosing this place to refine one's great way would make one's foundation incomparably solid. The reason was that since ancient times, it was unknown how many towering figures had come here, and there was no lack of ancient almighty figures. Each of them viewed the 9th pass of immortality as a place of competition, and left their own will of the great way on the realm battle steel in the city. And the power of the realm battle steel could communicate with the laws of the entire vast thousand battle domains, and it was equivalent to recording and copying the might of the great way of these people who left their names. Meditating and comprehending in this city would allow one to experience the might of the great way that had accumulated over countless years. For those who comprehended it, there were many benefits, and there wouldn't be any negative effects. While listening to the Green Sparrow's guidance, Lin Sun had already entered Tai City. He could clearly feel that this city was larger than the previous 8 cities, and there were even more people. It was incomparably prosperous and prosperous. For many years, many powerful figures who had trekked through the vast thousand battle domains had stopped here for various reasons, and chose to refine themselves here. It wasn't that they were unwilling to leave, but that there were so many mysteries in this city that they were unwilling to miss it. The core reason was outside Tai City. That place in the depths of the universe that was like a black curtain of night was actually a Great Way ruin that had survived from the last era. The Great Way ruin wasn't broken, and it was completely preserved, and it was filled with unimaginably mysterious opportunities. In the past, there were people who broke through their Tao in the Great Way ruin in one go. There were people who found a secret scroll of the Great Way that belonged to the last era and comprehended a supreme Tao. There were even people who dug out treasures of heaven and earth that were only born in the last era. But similarly, even though the Great Way ruin was filled with mysteries, it was accompanied by great dangers and boundlessly terrifying, and it caused people to be moved, fearful, and love and hate intertwined. I just don't know if the wanted Lin Sun will really appear in the 9th pass of immortality like the rumors say. What a peerless, ruthless person. He killed the city lord of Starting City, Hung Tianxua, and killed Wen Xiaoheng and Lu Do of the One family. I heard that Starting City was dyed red in that battle. I really want to see what Lin Sun looks like. How many tens of thousands of years has it been? The starry sky ancient path that has long been in decline has finally produced a peerless great emperor. But now, he's in a worrying situation. If he really dares to appear, Tai City will probably be his burial ground. Not long after he entered the city, Lin Sun heard a wave of discussion related to him. After a brief investigation, he found out that recently, someone had spread the rumor that he would appear in the 9th pass of immortality. At that time, the Immortal Emperor clan, Wen family, Hung family, and Luo family would move together to kill him. If it was just a rumor, it definitely wouldn't cause such a huge uproar. The reason was that after the rumor spread, it even received the approval of the Hung family and Wen family. Moreover, many peerless figures threatened that if Lin Sun really dared to appear in Tai City, they would definitely kill him, the murderer who ranked 3rd on the wanted list. In this way, it was hard for this matter not to cause a sensation. At least in Tai City, everyone already knew about it. Sure enough, they've already planned in advance. Lin Sun's expression didn't change. When he came to Tai City, he had speculated about it, so it wasn't surprising. On both sides of the spacious and ancient streets, there were medicine shops, weapon pavilions, elixir shops, and all kinds of wine shops and tea houses. People came and went, extremely prosperous and lively. It was the same as every time he entered the Immortality Pass. Lin Sun went straight to some large-scale trading companies and sold the treasures he collected along the way. At the same time, he was also looking for shops that sold underworld pearls. It wasn't until 6 hours later that Lin Sun found an inn to stay. I still need 9 more underworld pearls before I can completely condense the remaining 3 netherworld Tao patterns. Chun, she muttered to himself. In the room, Lin Sun put the underworld pearls he bought into the abyssal sword cauldron one by one. Looking at the subtle changes of the remaining 3 netherworld Tao patterns, he couldn't help but nod secretly. From the third immortality pass to the present, he would buy underworld pearls in the city every time he entered the immortality pass. Although he paid a huge fortune for it, the effect was quite remarkable. He had a hunch. When the 9 netherworld Tao patterns were completely condensed, there would be a shocking transformation. Cyan Sparrow, tell me about the trial in Tai City, Lin Sun said casually. The Green Sparrow said, it isn't difficult to head to the Tao ruins outside this city and capture 10 Emperor rank evil spirits. However, the Tao ruins are extremely dangerous and terrifying. Even though numerous peerless, fortuitous encounters from the last era are hidden there, we must be extremely careful if we want to leave with our lives. Lin Sun nodded. When he was selling treasures in the city, he had learned that every month a group of practitioners who signed up for the trial would be sent to the Tao relic. Now, there were only 3 days left before the next trial, so it was still not too late to sign up now. However, before signing up, Lin Sun planned to go to the place where the Realm Battle Tablet was located. P.S. It will continue to break out today. At about 6:30 p.m., please vote for me. Chapter 2573. Without further ado, Lin Sun set out immediately. However, as soon as he walked out of the inn, roar! Suddenly, an enormous roar sounded out from the universe, and the entire Tai city shook violently while the city walls rumbled. Bang! In next to no time, the city emitted numerous restrictive divine lights that held up a gorgeous screen of light that covered the entire ancient city. Lin Sun couldn't help but be surprised. He noticed at the first possible moment that an enormous and mighty figure had appeared amidst an expanse of darkness in the depths of the universe. It was like the legendary fiend god. Its figure was 30 kilometers tall, and it stood on the stars and roared proudly in the universe. At this moment, the phantom that seemed like a fiend god shook its body madly, as if it intended to struggle free of some sort of restraints, and it caused the sky to shake violently. Even that expanse of the universe split apart, while enormous rifts stretched throughout the surroundings, and they emanated terrifying destructive energy. Its aura was absolutely more terrifying than that of a Tao ancestor. In Lin Sun's eyes, the phantom of the fiend god was actually merely a strand of willpower that was projected from the black world that was like the curtain of night. In short, what appeared in the universe at this moment was merely an illusory willpower, but its might had already far surpassed that of the Emperor ancestor. Lin Sun couldn't help but gasp. What kind of terrifying creature was this? How could it be so formidable? It happened again. The ruins of the Great Way are becoming more and more turbulent and abnormal. Recently, such strange things have happened frequently. Fortunately, it hasn't affected Tai City yet. The pedestrians on the street were relatively calm. Obviously, it wasn't the first time they'd encountered such a thing. I heard that it's because a mysterious forbidden seal in the ruins of the Great Way seems to have loosened, and it's very likely to be a terrifying creature from the last era that's sealed within it. Someone whispered, "This is merely a rumor. I got news that an unparalleled fortune will be unearthed in the ruins of the Great Way, and it's suspected to be related to a ferocious sword from the last era." Someone spoke with certainty. "Yes, I've also heard that although the ferocious sword hasn't been unearthed, the sword intent it emanates has transformed into a bloody phenomenon like a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. There are countless corpses of fiend gods piled up there. It's boundlessly strange and terrifying." Through the conversation, Lin Sun knew. Recently, there were frequent abnormal movements in the ruins of the Great Path. The cries of ominous swords resounded, transforming into blood-colored visions that buried the gods. This scene had been witnessed by many formidable figures, and they felt that it was extremely likely that this phenomenon was related to a sword that was buried in the ruins of the Grand Tao. Apart from this, there were also roars like the one just now. There were fiend god wills struggling frantically, as if they wanted to break some kind of seal and rush out of the world. This series of changes had also cast a shadow over Tai City, because Tai City was too close to the ruins of the Grand Tao. Once a calamity erupted, then Tai City was bound to be the first to be affected. But for some tyrannical figures, the changes in the Great Path relic made them realize another possibility. A peerless fortune was about to appear. In an instant, the relics of the Great Way became the hottest topic in Tai City. Knowing this, Lin Sun couldn't help frowning. If all these abnormalities were really related to the last era, then once it erupted, it would absolutely be dangerous and unpredictable. Outside the sky, in the depths of the universe, the 30,000-foot-tall fiend god writhed for more than an hour before letting out an unwilling roar. Suddenly, it collapsed and disappeared. See, the ruins of the Great Path are extremely dangerous. Ordinary great emperors don't dare to step into it all. Only those peerless and ruthless people dare to enter and seek fortune. Someone sighed with emotion. Not only had the ruins of the Great Path become abnormal, but there were also many unimaginable evil spirits that the Emperor realm distributed within it. It was full of danger. Of course, for some ruthless people, there were also unimaginable opportunities. Lin Sun didn't think too much about it and headed straight towards the east of the city. Tai City was towering and magnificent. The city walls were like mountains, tall and thick, and they emitted an imposing aura. The east of the city was turned into a restricted area, and only figures above the Emperor realm were allowed to approach it. One of the 9 battle steels that had survived from the last era stood there. When Lin Sun arrived, he saw an extremely vast area, and a stone steel that was suffused with the aura of primal chaos stood there. It was 3,000 feet tall, grand and majestic, and emitted the aura of primal chaos. It was like the backbone that held up the sky, and there was a unique fluctuation of the laws. The battle steel. It was rumored that there were a total of 9 of these steels, and they were scattered in different immortal passes. They had survived from the destruction of the last era. The material of this steel was extremely mysterious and special. It was able to communicate with the energy of the laws that covered the entire vast 1,000 battle domains. It was extremely miraculous. In the past, it was unknown how many immortal figures had coveted it, and they had tried to take it away. But to everyone's surprise, even the immortal figures were unable to shake this steel in the slightest. At this moment, some people were either standing silently or sitting cross-legged near the battle steel. Light flowed around their bodies, and they were obviously sensing and comprehending the energy on the battle steel. In reality, Lin Sun had sensed it at the first possible moment. The battle steel was suffused with a shapeless fluctuation, and it was like a ripple that covered this area. When he sensed it carefully, this fluctuation was extremely unique, and it was filled with all sorts of willpower of the Great Tao. Some were cold and domineering, some wantonly and ostentatious, some wild and untamed, some indifferent like the clouds, and some. They were of all shapes and sizes. Lin Sun instantly understood that these were the auras of the Great Tao left behind by the experts who had left their names on the battle steel over the countless years. It wasn't some secret of the Great Tao, and was merely the appearance of the aura. But even so, if one were to comprehend and analyze it, it would be of great benefit to one's cultivation. No wonder so many cultivators aren't willing to leave after arriving at Tai City. Not to mention the fortuitous encounters within the ruins of the Grand Tao. Just cultivating near the realm battlefield steel is able to allow one's cultivation to obtain great benefits and obtain further tempering. Lin Sun seemed to be lost in thought. In this area, besides those figures comprehending, there are also many cultivators like Lin Sun who had just arrived. This steel has been divided into 3 rankings, namely Earth, Heaven, and Mysterious. An old man in a luxurious robe was speaking with fervor and assurance, introducing the rankings to the people around him. Those who are able to leave their names on the Earth list can be called dragons and phoenixes among men. They have the cultivation aptitude of 1 in 10,000, and must at least have the cultivation of the 6th level of the Emperor realm. Those who are able to leave their names on the heaven list can be called peerless geniuses. In every universe of the vast thousand battles domain, they are born to cultivate and are favored by the heavens. In other words, those who are able to leave their names on the heaven list are almost all peerless figures who have stepped onto the Emperor's road. Every one of them has the power to cover the heavens and earth. These words caused a wave of exclamation. Only those in the 6th level of the Emperor realm were qualified to leave their names on the earth list and the heaven list. Only peerless great emperors were qualified to leave their names on it. This condition was undoubtedly very harsh and shocking. But the old man in a luxurious robe said with a slight smile, being qualified to leave one's name doesn't necessarily mean that one will be able to do so. Everything depends on one's combat strength, talent, and potential to be strong enough. Then how should one leave one's name on the mysterious list? Someone couldn't help but ask. The others also looked over. The old man in a luxurious robe took a deep breath, looked at the highest point of the realm battle tablet, and said with scorching eyes, "Since ancient times, there has always been a saying that those who can leave their names on the mysterious list must be invincible in the world, must have a dazzling demeanor, and must have a foundation that transcends the ancestor realm. Such experts are all known as the overlords of a realm and the peak of a realm." His words caused the entire place to fall silent, and a series of gasps could be heard. Although this old guy's words are a little exaggerated, they are right. The earth list, the heaven list, and the mysterious list represent a completely different path. Green Sparrow commented, "Just like you, it is very likely that you can leave your name on the mysterious list." Following Lin Sun all the way from Starting City to Tai City, Green Sparrow had long seen the terrifying and abnormal cultivation of Lin Sun. It was not worried that Lin Sun could not leave his name on the mysterious list. The only uncertainty was how high Lin Sun's position on the mysterious list could be. "Let me go first." A man in a silver robe walked forward, the soles of his feet glowing, leaving circle after circle of patterns of the Great Way on the ground, sparkling and mysterious, and his whole body was burning. When he arrived in front of the realm battle tablet, his cultivation had climbed to the peak state. Then he pressed his palm on the stone tablet. Buzz, a mysterious rain of light sprinkled down like dancing petals, accompanied by a roar, and the entire realm battle tablet was covered with a wave of obscure light ripples. Many people were amazed, recognizing that this man in a silver robe was an 8th great emperor. Although not at the peak, his cultivation was extremely tyrannical. After a moment, a light golden rain of light sprinkled down, bathing the man in a silver robe. "Leave your name on the earth list." The old man in a luxurious robe immediately made a judgment. The golden rain of light represented that he had successfully left his willpower on the earth list. Suddenly, the field was restless, and many people revealed a look of envy. But the man in a silver robe shook his head bitterly, looking a little disappointed. "Never set foot on the peak. The gap is really too big." With that, he left alone, looking a little desolate. "Why can't we see the real ranking?" Someone couldn't help but ask. The old man in a luxurious robe casually explained, "Only the person who left his name on the earth list can know his ranking. Others can't see it." After a pause, he continued, "For example, that Taoist just now left his name on the earth list and has a cultivation of the 8th level of the Emperor realm. If I'm not wrong, his ranking is probably outside the top 10,000 of the earth list." 10,000? Someone exclaimed. Even Lin Sun was stunned. Outside the top 10,000? Didn't this mean that in the past, there were at least 10,000 people with at least the 6th level of the Emperor realm who left their names on the earth list? This number was too huge. It's very simple. This is a ranking that has been accumulated since the very beginning of the one. 8 million young ancient ones. Even if the conditions to leave one's name are extremely harsh, but after countless years, the number of names left naturally cannot be small. The old man in a luxurious robe commented. "In fact, To be able to leave one's name on the realm battle tablet is already an extremely impressive feat. The number of emperors who are not qualified to leave their names will only be more. P.S. Second update. Before 9 p.m. of the third watch period. Seeking monthly votes, I'm only 100 votes away from the top 20. Chapter 2574. Everyone vaguely understood. Such a grand occasion could only be seen in the vast Thousand Battles domain. One had to know how vast the vast Thousand Worlds was, and it contained countless universes. But since ancient times, batches of martial emperors would gather in the vast Thousand Battles domain every once in a while. This also meant that apart from the natives, almost all the people in the vast Thousand Battles domain were martial emperors. It was as if the martial emperors were as numerous as dogs. But in reality, the number of martial emperors was destined to be extremely small in any of the universes in the vast Thousand Battles domain. This was a misconception. If there were only 1,000 universes in the vast Thousand Worlds, then there would only be 10 martial emperors in every universe if the names of the 10,000 martial emperors on the Earth rankings were averaged out. If they were averaged out over the countless years, it would be even fewer. Everyone was dumbfounded and indescribably shocked when they understood this. No one dared to underestimate the silver-robed man who was likely to be ranked outside the top 10,000. Let me try. A purple-haired man stepped forward, brimming with confidence. However, there was no reaction from the domain battle steel after the test. The purple-haired man's face and neck turned red as he clenched his fists. He did not even have the qualifications. He was an overlord in his own universe, looking down on the starry sky and revered by billions of lives. Being able to reach the 9th Immortal Pass had already proved his strength. But in the end, he was unable to leave his name on the Earth rankings. This was undoubtedly a huge blow. Many people shuddered with fear and felt extremely pressured. They finally understood that, not to mention being ranked outside the top 10,000 of the Earth rankings, just leaving one's name wasn't something anyone could do. Following that, many people stepped forward but suffered a huge blow. Almost all of them ended up in low spirits. For a time, when they looked at the domain battle steel again, many people revealed expressions of reverence. It was simply unattainable. All the peerless martial emperors had left their names on it, and it was so dazzling that it made people want to worship it. The more they understood, the more fearful they were. The gap between them was just too great. Just the Earth rankings was enough to obstruct the will of many people who left their names. How terrifying would the existences who could leave their names on the Heaven rankings be? What about the Xian rankings? Could it be that only the legendary prodigies can leave their names behind? Someone said softly, a bitter taste in their mouth. When they first saw them, they didn't feel much, but now they all felt their chests tighten. It was as if they were facing a group of legendary figures who had displayed extraordinary brilliance in the long river of time. Does anyone else want to try? There were several hundred people gathered here. Many of them had taken the test, but in the end, only a few characters had left their names on the Earth rankings. The others had all failed. At this moment, only a few people, including Lin's son, stayed still. Brother, aren't you going to give it a try? If he manages to leave his name on the Earth roll, his future is destined to be bright and boundless. Someone urged Lin's son. Seeing that Lin's son was indifferent and simple without any sharpness, he boldly teased and ridiculed him. Haha, this brother knows his own limitations. He knows that it's futile to take the test, so why bother humiliating himself? That's a smart person, someone else said with a smile. A burst of laughter sounded nearby. Later, I hope the two of you can still laugh. Lin's son also laughed. He was not interested in arguing too much because the other party did not have any ill intentions. Brother, are you really going to give it a try? The person who urged Lin's son was surprised. Lin's son had already walked straight over. He stood in front of the realm battle steel, his body and mind empty. Unlike the others, his body was plain and unremarkable, and he did not accumulate his power to the extreme. He casually pressed out his palm. Many people could not help but laugh. This guy was really just going to give it a try. It was obvious that he did not have any hope. But the next moment, their smiles suddenly froze. Boom! A sound like thunder suddenly erupted from the realm battle steel, resounding through the sky and shaking the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Everyone nearby was dumbfounded, as if they had seen a ghost. What was going on? Even those experts who were meditating in the surrounding areas to comprehend the will of the Great Way were awakened with a start, trembling all over. The commotion caused by this scene was too great, causing their ears to buzz and their minds to tremble. And before the crowd could react, they saw brilliant divine light surged into the sky. The ancient steel resonated, and flower after flower of the Great Way floated down. Then brilliant divine light completely drowned Lin Sun's figure. Waves of heavenly sounds resounded, causing the heavens and the earth to be sacred and solemn, and the nearby void was dyed with a layer of crystal-clear light of the way. What happened? At this moment, countless experts in the entire Tai city were alarmed. They stopped what they were doing and looked towards the area where the realm battle steel was located. Heavens, that's the realm battle steel resonates, and the light of the way gathers. This is a phenomenon that will only occur when one leaves one's name on the Xian ranking. Heaven-defying, who is this? Let's go take a look. For a time, countless figures in the city started moving. Those who were able to leave their names on the Xian ranking could be said to be peak overlords of the same realm. They were invincible in the current age and had a dazzling bearing. Figures like these all possessed the potential to surpass the Emperor Ancestor realm. And at this moment, near the realm battle steel, the crowd that was ridiculing Lin Sun exclaimed in shock, and they completely lost their composure. Who would have thought that an ordinary and mediocre fellow would cause such a vast phenomenon just by casually stretching out his palm? This wasn't leaving his name on the Earth ranking. It wasn't charging towards the heavenly ranking. Instead, it was leaving his name on the legendary Xian ranking. This had completely exceeded the expectations of everyone. When they thought of how they had ridiculed Lin Sun earlier, their faces turned green. As for the people further away, they were dumbstruck as well. Looking from afar, the top of the realm battle steel was dazzling and resplendent. Flowers of the Great Way were everywhere, and divine light enveloped the heavens and the earth. It was as if a sun had streaked across the sky, and someone had left their name on the steel, illuminating the entire void. The first batch of people rushed over and raised their heads to look. The realm battle steel was actually still resonating at this moment, and the magnificent and blazing light of the Great Way flowed. Who is this person? Could it be a peerless figure from the immortal Emperor clan? Such a phenomenon is rare even in the Xian ranking. This is already determined that the person who left his name will be ranked extremely high and is destined to shock everyone. Many peerless great emperors appeared, and even some 9th realm ancestors came. There are even many mysterious figures with extraordinary origins. At this moment, all of their gazes were gathered on the realm battle steel, and their expressions changed. This was because the phenomenon was too intense, far from ordinary, and seemed very special. One must know that in the past, there were frequently stunning figures who were able to leave their names on the Xian ranking, and they would cause different phenomena. To some of the cultivators in Tai City, this was a common occurrence. But at this moment, this phenomenon was very different. It was far grander than before. The entire realm battle steel shone, and divine flames surged, rushing into the sky. It constantly resonated, producing rumbling sounds of the Great Way, and a mysterious aura of the Great Way enveloped this place. Not long ago, the phenomenon caused by a peerless giant from the 7th heaven didn't seem to be this powerful, someone murmured. You're talking about Huaruoxu, right? He's a peak 8th heaven great emperor. But if we really compare, the phenomenon caused by him back then is indeed not as good as what is happening now. Many people were restless, making comparisons in their hearts. Recently, there was no lack of peerless figures who left their names on the Xian ranking, causing a stir in the city and attracting the attention of countless people. Among them, there were legendary figures from the vast 1,000 battle domains, and there were also tyrannical existences from the eternal true world. But after comparing, People could not help but be shocked to find that none of the phenomena caused by those who left their names in the past could compare to this. Just who was that person? For a time, people became even more curious, and they all looked over. Unfortunately, the rain of light near the realm battle steel was too dazzling, and it was filled with an obscure aura of the Great Way, obstructing their investigation. They could only see a blurry figure. After waiting for a long time, when the auspicious rays of light that filled the sky retracted and the flower of the Great Way dissipated, people could finally see that figure clearly. It was an unfamiliar face. His figure was tall, and his aura was ordinary, without any power to speak of. He was like a living being that could be seen everywhere in the vast sea of people. Only his appearance was handsome, refined, and extraordinary. Everyone was dumbfounded. Who was this person? For a time, the atmosphere was oppressive. Many people looked at each other, hoping that someone would reveal Lin Sun's name. But the awkward thing was that no one could say it. Obviously, this was an unfamiliar face who had just arrived in Tai City, a powerful existence who looked ordinary but actually possessed a terrifying and boundless foundation. Someone was just about to speak up and take the initiative to ask about Lin Sun's background, but he was shocked to find that Lin Sun had left in a hurry and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Some cultivators could not help but chase after him. But not long after, they were shocked to find that Lin Sun had used some unknown secret method, and his tracks could not be tracked at all. He had disappeared without a trace. Even so, the commotion caused by Lin Sun leaving his name on the realm battle steel still caused a commotion in this place and attracted the attention of all parties. What? Someone defies the natural order and actually suppress the phenomena caused by Huaruoxu. It is said that Huaruoxu is ranked in the top 1,000 on the Xian list. Although I don't know the specific number, it can be said that he defies the natural order. After all, the list engraved on the Xian list is a collection of peerless figures who have walked out of countless years since ancient times, and all of them have the bearing of invincibility. And in such a comparison, the ranking of this mysterious figure is very likely to be above Huaruoxu, and is destined to be firmly ranked in the top 1,000. The matter continued to ferment, causing a sensation in the whole Tai City and causing a great uproar. Countless people were speculating and discussing, and in the area near the realm battle steel, groups of people also rushed over, trying to find out more information. Very soon, a very handsome man in golden clothes came. His eyes were incomparably deep, and his every movement had a kind of transcendental majesty that overlooked all living beings. He stood in front of the realm battle steel, motionless and thoughtful. Some of the older generation were horrified and felt familiar. They recognized the identity of the man in golden clothes and could not help but be shocked. P.S. The third update is here. It will definitely be done before 12 o'clock in the evening. Those who can't wait, watch it tomorrow when you wake up. Chapter 2575. Huaruoxu, a legendary man from the seventh heaven. The clan behind him controlled the heavenly order and had terrifying power. Many people nearby were shocked when they recognized him. Obviously, Huaruoxu had also heard the news and rushed over to check it out. Young master, it is said that this person has an unfamiliar face and no one can recognize him. He is obviously not a famous person from the eternal world. He should be an amazing person from the boundless world. Beside Huaruoxu stood a beautiful woman in purple. Her every move was filled with the aura of an emperor ancestor. She was extremely dignified. From the boundless world? That's extraordinary. Huaruoxu said, if I am able to completely harmonize the nomological laws of the Great Path with my own cultivation during this journey and truly achieve perfection, my ranking will definitely rise by a large margin. His voice was deep and had a unique magnetism. He was calm and had an indescribable confidence. Young master, why do you care about this? This ranking is temporary. Even if he is a genius from the boundless world, he is destined to be unable to compare to you in the future. The beautiful woman in purple said with a smile. No one felt that there was anything wrong with what she said, because that was Huaruoxu, a legend who could make countless big shots treat him with respect in the eternal world. Huarawaxu only smiled and did not comment on it. The next moment, they disappeared into thin air. Although they only appeared for a short time, Huarawaxu had a halo around him. As the news of his appearance spread, it still caused a great stir and heated discussion. There was no doubt that because of their appearance, the influence of Lin Sun's name on the Xian list increased. Some peerless figures who were originally proud of their status and did not care about this could not help but be surprised and began to treat this matter seriously. Everyone could vaguely feel that this mysterious person from the boundless world would be a great enemy who would rise like a star and shine with immortal brilliance. It's him, it must be him. In a magnificent palace in Tai City, Luo Ling, who was sitting on the main seat, had a cold look in her eyes. She had already learned of the news that had shocked the whole city. Who? Someone could not help but ask. Naturally, it's my cousin. Luo Ling's voice was bone-chilling. In her fair and crystalline palm was a black piece of jade that was tainted with a small stain of blood. Even though it had dried a long time ago, it was still bright red and suffused with a horrifying aura. At this moment, the black jade was emanating a trace of faint fluctuation, and it seemed to be trembling. It seemed to have sensed something and was droning. This change made Luo Ling extremely sure that the mysterious person who left his name on the Xian list in front of the realm battle steel must be Lin Sun. The reason for that was because the black jade contained the bloodline aura of the great Abyss Devourer. It was a mysterious treasure that had been passed down from the Luo clan's Skyspan Master. This treasure could detect the bloodline talent of the people of the Luo clan, and when it sensed the aura of the devouring abyss, it would resonate with it. Every new baby born to the Luo family would have their talent checked by the stone immediately. Now, this treasure was used by Luo Ling to sense and judge Lin's trace. Send the news to the Hung clan and the One clan. Tell them that Lin Sun has entered Tai City. Luo Ling's eyes were suffused with a piercingly cold sharpness. In addition, spread the news that the mysterious person who caused a shocking phenomenon on the realm battle steel today is Lin Sun, who is ranked 3rd on the wanted list. In the hall, all the cultivators under the Luo clan revealed strange expressions. Luo Ling's arrangement could only be described in 4 words. Kill with a borrowed knife. They understood Luo Ling's strategy and could not help but nod. Many days ago, Luo Ling had brought the cultivators of the Luo clan to Tai City and immediately spread the news that Lin Sun would definitely appear in Tai City. At that time, it had even attracted the attention of the whole city. The forces of the One clan and the Liang clan had already gathered and were waiting for the right moment. Besides this, there were also many tyrannical figures who became interested and spread the word that as long as Lin Sun, the wanted criminal, entered the city, they would definitely kill him. It was for the sake of obtaining the sky-high reward. But now, Lin Sun had entered the city and caused the shocking phenomenon on the realm battle steel. Exposing his identity at this time and telling the world that he had entered the city, it could be imagined how many tyrannical figures would covet and kill him. Immediately, someone received the order and left. While the outside world was in a turbulent and heated discussion, Lin Sun had already returned to the inn. Tell me quickly, what is your ranking on the Xian list? Cyan Sparrow was already impatient and asked anxiously. 918. Lin Sun said casually and did not conceal it, but there was a strange expression in his eyes. Previously, when he was leaving his name, he keenly felt a strange power belonging to the realm battle steel, which poured into his body like a tide and was perceiving his cultivation, state of mind, will, and so on. This made him instinctively resist it. After making sure that this strange power was not malicious, he gradually relaxed. But when this strange power was about to touch the spiritual vein of his heart, Lin Sun directly blocked it. The spiritual vein was his biggest secret, and the talent of the second stage of Devourer of the Abyss was absolutely not to be exposed. Even if it was the power of the realm battle steel, he did not want to be detected. Therefore, when he left his name on the Xian list, he stopped at the 918th place. According to Lin Sun's inference, if he did not stop the strange power at that time, his ranking He was afraid that it would continue to climb, and it would not be as simple as the 918th place. After all, among foundation, talent, cultivation, well, talent was extremely important and had a great impact. And the lack of talent naturally caused his ranking to fall behind a lot. Even so, Cyan Sparrow was stunned for a moment when she learned about it. After a while, Cyan Sparrow exclaimed in admiration, "Abnormal, really abnormal. It's only the first time you left your name, but you're already in the top 1,000 of the Xian list. This kind of result is enough to shock the world. If it was in the eternal world, it could even cause a sensation in the seventh heaven." The seventh heaven was the place where the immortal Emperor clan in charge of the heavenly order was entrenched. If it could cause a sensation in this world, it could be imagined that Lin Sun's ranking was not bad, but extremely shocking. "What do you mean the first time I left my name? Can I leave my name a second time in the future?" Lin Sun asked. Cyan Sparrow said, "You can't say that. After you leave your name on the realm battle steel with the power of your will, in the future when you walk in the vast thousand battle domains, your achievements and cultivation will be immediately sensed by the power of the rules of the vast thousand battle domains. You should also know that the power of the domain battle steel is able to harmonize with the laws of the vast thousand battle domains. This also means that the battle achievements you obtain and the increase in your cultivation will also be sensed by the domain battle steel. As a result, it will affect the changes in your ranking on the Xian ranking." After a pause, Cyan Sparrow concluded, "In short, from now on, the stronger the opponent you kill, the more powerful your strength will be, and your ranking on the realm battle steel will also change accordingly." Lin Sun finally understood. This also meant that the current ranking on the Xian list was actually temporary and not permanent. "Young man, work hard. I heard that in the past, there was a legendary great emperor who managed to raise his rank to the top 100 in one go before he arrived in the eternal true world," the Azure Sparrow said encouragingly with the air of someone who was from the older generation. At that time, not only did this matter cause a stir in the Great Thousand Battles domain, it even brought great benefits to the plane that the legendary martial emperor came from. His plane's ranking in the Great Thousand world rose to the top 50. A single person changed the ranking of a cosmos, creating an unprecedented miracle. How impressive! Lin Sun couldn't help but ask, "What benefits can one obtain from the change in the ranking of cosmos?" Cyan Sparrow had a face full of disdain, as if she was saying that he was too ignorant if he didn't even know this. But she still patiently explained it. It turned out that the higher the ranking of a cosmos in the vast thousand battle domains, the closer it was to the vast thousand battle domains. Thus, the aura of the grand Tao of that cosmos would change and become stronger and stronger. Lin Sun couldn't help but be shocked, because according to Cyan Sparrow, the position of a cosmos was not fixed, but like the stars, it could be shifted and changed. For example, the starry sky ancient path was the first cosmos in the vast thousand battle domains, and its position was originally the closest to the vast thousand battle domains. But as the starry sky ancient path gradually declined, its ranking gradually fell behind, and its position was squeezed further and further away from the vast thousand battle domains. After understanding this, Lin Sun couldn't stay calm. The ranking of the vast thousand battle domains actually had such a unique relationship with the ranking of the domain battle tablet. It could even affect the rise and fall of a cosmos. This was undoubtedly incredible. Lin Sun said thoughtfully, "So, if I raise my ranking to the top of the profound ranking, doesn't it mean that the ranking of the starry sky ancient path that I came for will also rise to the top of the vast thousand world?" Cyan Sparrow nodded. "That's about it." After hearing this, Lin Sun's gaze became strange. He had never intended to seek any opportunity to change the fate of the starry sky ancient path. But as luck would have it, he had stumbled upon such an opportunity by accident. It really made him feel very passive. Soon after, Lin Sun stopped thinking about this. He had no intention of being a savior. The reason why he chose to leave his name on the domain battle tablet was also to prepare for entering the battlefield of gods when he reached the 49th Immortal Pass. He couldn't care so much about other things. Qing Ke, in 3 days, I will enter the Great Path Relic. Take advantage of this opportunity to tell me about the Great Path relic." Lin Sun said in a low voice. Cyan Sparrow readily agreed. And while Lin Sun and Cyan Sparrow were talking in Tai City, as Luo Ling sent people to spread the news, it also caused an uproar in a short period of time. P.S. The fourth update is here. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your monthly tickets. Tomorrow, if you still want to see the goldfish explode, please throw in your tickets and support it. Chapter 2576. Today's Tai City was in an uproar because of the shocking phenomenon caused by Lin Sun on the boundary battle steel. However, no one knew who this mysterious man was, which made people even more curious. Speculations and discussions about the mysterious man's identity had become the hottest topic on the streets. The appearance of Hua Ruoxu was undoubtedly tantamount to adding fuel to the fire in this storm, causing some peerless figures with extraordinary origins to begin to take this matter seriously. Under such a background, as Luo Ling's subordinates spread the news everywhere, the identity of the mysterious man was revealed. Lin Sun, the peerless villain whose name now appeared on the second place on the wanted list. It's actually him. Countless astonished voices sounded. When did such a terrifying existence appear in such a shabby place like the ancient path of the stars? Many people couldn't even accept it. The peerless figures from the top 10 universes of the vast thousand worlds who could leave their names on the Earth roll were definitely 1 in 10,000. Those who were able to leave their names on the heaven ranking were all the strongest, peerless rulers in their respective universes. As for the Xian roll, it all depended on luck. Since ancient times, countless peerless figures had tried their best, but couldn't even touch the edge of the Xian roll. But now, a character from the ancient path of the stars had left his name on the Xian roll and caused a shocking phenomenon. Who could accept such a contrast? He killed City Lord Hung Tianxuo and when Xiaoheng of the One Clan in the beginning city and is wanted by the entire vast thousand battle domain. But this villain still dares to enter Tai City and leave his name on the boundary battle steel. Is he showing off in front of us? Just as the city was shocked and in an uproar because of this news, many voices fanned the flames. No matter how amazing his cultivation is and how strong his foundation is, he is still a criminal who has violated the rules. We can't let him act presumptuously in Tai City. As far as I know, this person is now staying in an inn in the southwest of the city. This is the best time to eliminate him. If we can kill this person, we can exchange them for 26 million cosmic void origin crystals. Perhaps his strength is terrifying, but if we all attack together, he will definitely die. These malicious voices constantly stirred up the minds of the cultivators in the city, fanning the flames and adding fuel to the fire. For a time, countless cultivators became restless. These people who were fanning the flames were naturally the cultivators of the Luo clan. Since they were using someone else to do the dirty work, the more cultivators they could incite, the better. The cultivators of the One Clan have set off for the southwest of the city. Not long after, heavy news spread. A group of powerful figures from the One family had already begun to move. Look, the Hung clan's forces are also taking action. As the news spread out one after another, the entire Tai city became restless. A storm was brewing. Countless gazes were cast in the same direction. Let's go and see who Lin Sun is. It's not easy for him to leave his name on the profound board. If he dies like this, we won't be able to see him again. A few peerless figures with extraordinary backgrounds couldn't help but rush over as well. According to the rules of the Immortal Heaven Pass, all fighting and killing were forbidden in the city. But everyone knew that Lin Sun was now a wanted man. Everyone had the right to kill him. Even if he was killed in the city, it was also for the good of the world. Looking down from the sky, there were many figures in the vast Tai city. They were like waves of tides, surging towards the same place. It was a spectacular scene. Is there anyone in the mansion of the city lord stopping them? When Luo Ling heard the news, a smile appeared at the corners of her mouth, and her expression was full of confidence. The mansion of the city lord only dispatched many soldiers to maintain order, but they didn't stop all this. It seems that they also intend to look on indifferently. The cultivator of the Luo clan who came to report the news said quickly. Luo Ling nodded slightly and said, "It seems that the One clan and the Hung clan have been allowed by the big shot in the mansion of the city lord." As she said, a touch of coldness appeared in her eyes. "Let's go there now. In any case, we can't let my cousin die like this. He's the most valuable when he's alive." Luo Ling stood up, her figure graceful as she walked out of the main hall. In the inn, Lin Sun was meditating. Before arriving at the Ninth Heaven Pass, he had experienced countless dangers and battles, and his cultivation had been tempered to an extreme level. Even his own cultivation was faintly showing signs of reaching the Great Circle. Thinking back to when he was in the beginning city, he could suppress Hung Tianxua, the ancestor of Dao, in a head-on battle when he had just stepped into the peak Seventh Heaven Emperor realm. Yet now, he traversed one Eternal Heaven Pass after another since Inception City, and he'd traveled and fought all along the way. In a short period of 2 years, his cultivation showed signs of attaining perfection, and such an advancement could absolutely be considered to be world-shocking. Of course, the biggest gain was definitely not the improvement of his cultivation. Instead, it was the countless trials and killings that allowed Lin Sun's cultivation to be consolidated and settled many times. He got rid of the impurities and retained the essence, and returned to his original state. This was the most precious experience of the Great Tao. It was a transformation between life and death, and sublimation in battles. If I can get some beneficial opportunities in the Great Tao ruins this time, maybe I could try to break through to the Tao integration realm. Lin Sun couldn't help but look forward to it. Ding! A bronze bell that was covered with a complicated restrictive spell that was hanging in the middle of the room rang. Someone came to visit. Lin Sun immediately woke up from meditation and frowned slightly. It was his first day in Tai City, and he didn't know anyone at all. Who would visit at this time? Could it be that someone in front of the boundary battle tablet has locked onto my tracks? While thinking, Lin Sun got up and walked over. He removed the restriction power in the room and was about to open the door. Lin Sun stopped what he was doing. At this moment, as the restriction in the room was removed, his divine sense sensed a murderous intent for the first time. No, countless murderous intents surrounded the inn from all directions. They were so dense that it was impossible to tell how many of them there were. His identity was exposed. A murderous intent quietly appeared in Lin Sun's eyes. He even guessed that this was very likely to be the work of one clan, Hung clan, and Luo clan. They can lock onto my position so quickly. It seems that I still underestimated the means of these immortal emperor clans. Lin Sun sighed in his heart, and his eyes had become deep and indifferent. He must kill his way out. Otherwise, this inn would be like a cage, which would trap him to death. What's more, Tai City was different from other immortal heaven passes. There were countless peerless figures and ruthless people gathered here. Once they dealt with him because of the bounty on a wanted list, he would have no foothold in Tai City. Ding! The copper bell in the room rang again. Outside the room, there were 7 or 8 figures waiting. Each of them had restrained their aura, but in fact, they had already accumulated their power to the extreme. The leaders were 2 Ninth Realm ancestors. One of the red-robed men warned, "Remember, our goal is to lure the prey out. Don't risk your life. Otherwise, with the strength of that murderer, he can definitely kill us easily." The others nodded, revealing a dignified look. But after waiting for a long time, there was no movement from the room, which made these people a little impatient. Could it be that he has already sensed something wrong and escaped in advance? Someone couldn't help but whisper. The red-robed man's eyes flickered, and then he took a deep breath and said, "Everyone retreat together. I will break the door." The crowd immediately dispersed. The red-robed man also seemed to be extremely vigilant. He retreated to a very far distance, and then took out a blood-red seal and smashed it out fiercely. Boom! Like a terrifying blood-red thunderbolt, the door of the inn was easily shattered. As the smoke and dust dispersed, the scene in the room was also revealed. The red-robed man and his companions planned to retreat at the first moment. They didn't want to fight Lin Sun head-on. After all, the latter had killed Hung Tianxua, an ancestor of the Tao. Who wouldn't fear him? No one. However, when they were about to leave, they were surprised to find that the room was empty. There was no one at all. Did this guy really escape in advance? The red-robed man was stunned. At this moment, a tall figure appeared out of thin air in front of the red-robed man. The latter was so scared that his scalp almost exploded, and he attacked with all his strength almost instinctively. Boom! He swung his hand like a god smashing down a divine mountain. The light of the Tao flowed all over his body, and his power was boundless. But along with the tall figure pressing down with a single hand, the red-robed man's attack collapsed like a bubble. His entire body was slapped into pieces by this palm strike, and a rain of blood and bits of flesh didn't even have a chance to spray out before they were crushed and obliterated by a terrifying, devouring force. His body and soul were destroyed. This was an ancestor of the Ninth Realm. Ordinary Great Emperor Zhu Feng was no match for him. He could be called a heavyweight in the vast thousand battle domains. But now, he was killed in the snap of a finger, and not even dregs were left. The person who attacked was naturally Lin Sun. His aura was calm, and there was no fluctuation of power in his body. But this time, the experts who came with the red-robed man were shocked. Run! They fled out of the inn at the first moment. It was as if they were running for their lives. Since you've chosen to come here to die, you might as well stay behind. Amidst the calm and indifferent voice, strands of formless sword chi swept out. Puff, puff, puff. Those Emperor Realm experts, no matter how high their cultivation was, no matter how fast they fled, were all wiped out by the sword chi at the same time. It was an understatement, but it was extremely fierce and overbearing. No defensive treasure, no indestructible emperor body, no secret escape method, none of them worked. The sword chi was too terrifying. It treated Emperor Realm experts like grass and could be harvested at will. The most terrifying thing was that from beginning to end, the tables and chairs in the inn, and even small utensils like wine cups and teacups, were not damaged. Everything was neat and tidy and intact. Only a thick and pungent smell of blood quietly pervaded the air. This undoubtedly proved that the current Lin Sun's control of the power of killing had reached a shocking level. He could lift heavy things as if they were light, and great skills as if they were clumsy. Incredible. P.S. The last day of the double monthly votes. The ranking is about to be squeezed down again. Classmates, please check if you have any free monthly votes in your hands. If you do, please throw them to the goldfish. It may be a little late today, but it will definitely be. Chapter 2577. What's going on? The target hasn't been lured out yet. A young man in embroidered clothes walked into the inn with his hands behind his back. There was a trace of impatience between his brows. Then he was stunned. The familiar red-robed man and his companions were nowhere to be seen. In the empty inn, there was only a tall figure standing there. Lin Sun. The young man's expression changed slightly, but he was obviously very confident. He said coldly, "Those people were killed by you. What do you think?" Lin Sun asked. "Arrogant." The young man in embroidered clothes shouted. But just as he was about to say something, Lin Sun was already walking over. What was faster than him was an ordinary sword chi that suddenly appeared and shot towards him. It was unbelievably fast. Bang! The layer of armor on the young man in embroidered clothes exploded, and his chest was almost cut open. He was sent flying out of the inn and rolled on the ground, letting out a shrill scream. There was a commotion outside the inn. The nearby area was controlled by many figures with terrifying auras, densely packed together. There were cultivators from the Luo family, Wen family, Hung family, and Luo family. There were also dazzling, peerless figures with extraordinary origins. Further away, there were many figures watching. The large street block was completely blocked, and not even a drop of water could trickle through. Naturally, none of the experts who dared to besiege this place were ordinary. In fact, there were even several Dao ancestors in the lead. Apart from that, Zhu Ying the Great Emperor was also a common sight. Each of them displayed their monstrous power, which made the heaven and earth depressed. When they saw the young man in embroidered clothes who was sent flying by a sword, many people revealed a look of surprise. Although this young man in embroidered clothes was not a peerless great emperor, he was a powerful figure under the Luo family with an 8th stage cultivation. But at this moment, he rolled on the ground with his flesh torn. The atmosphere was silent at first, and then many people looked at the entrance of the inn. A tall and sturdy figure walked out. He was dressed in a white robe, and his black hair was loose. He looked ordinary, like a heavy sword without a sharp edge, and there was no power revealed at all. But at this moment, there was a commotion in the field, and a series of surprised voices sounded. He is the peerless villain who left his name on the Xian ranking? Some people found it unbelievable. This aura didn't have any power at all. It was too normal. His aura is leakless, and he has returned to his natural state. This is an unfathomable and ruthless person. Do not be deceived by his plain appearance. Someone was shocked, revealing a serious expression. Countless eyes were looking at Lin Sun with different expressions, but no one dared to underestimate him. This was a terrifying existence that had already proven his strength with blood. He was a peerless, ruthless person who had left his name on the Xian list. Even the ancestor of One Dao would not dare to underestimate him, because it was said that Hung Tianxua, who was at the same cultivation realm as them, was killed by such a ruthless person. Yes, very special, far from the general sense of a peak-level great emperor. In the 7th heaven, such a character is 1 in a million. On a pavilion far away, the extraordinarily handsome Hua Ruoxu, who was dressed in golden clothes, had a look of astonishment in his eyes. Is this the mysterious person who is likely to be ranked higher than me on the Xian list? He was indeed extraordinary. Young master, could it be that you want to recruit this person? If so, I have to remind you that we'd better not get involved in this killing. The beautiful woman in purple next to him said in a low voice, "One, Hung and Luo, the 3 immortal emperor clans have set up an inescapable net and many restrictions in the neighborhood. In addition, there are 4 ancestor of One Dao, plus those emperors in the field. This lineup is almost invincible." After a pause, the beautiful woman in purple glanced around with her watery eyes and said, "What's more, there are many old things hiding in the dark." Lin Sun's words hit the nail on the head and revealed Lin's situation. Hua Ruoxu smiled and said, "I don't care about these, and I will never recruit this person, because I know better than you that it is impossible for such a character to surrender to any force." The beautiful woman in purple breathed a sigh of relief, patted her snow-white and plump breasts, and said, "That's good. We could just watch." At the same time, in front of the inn, Lin Sun glanced around and suddenly knew his situation. He had to admit that this lineup was really terrifying. Within a radius of 1,000 miles, there were many enemies, dense restrictions, and killing intent everywhere. It could also be seen that one, Hung and Luo, had obviously spared no effort in order to kill him. If any other peak great emperor were to be in such a situation, they would only sigh in despair and say that there was nothing they could do to save the situation. But Lin Sun didn't. It was not only because he had enough confidence. More importantly, in the countless years since he started cultivating, he had experienced countless dangers of life and death. How could he be shaken by such a scene? However, seeing that he was besieged alone, those onlookers couldn't help but feel pity and sigh. A person who could leave his name on the Xian list and Shaktai City would sooner or later transcend the ancestor realm. But now, he was going to be killed, which was naturally a pity. And those enemies who regarded Lin Sun as a prey were ready to take action with cold eyes and killing intent. Lin Sun, you have seen the current situation clearly. Do you think you can escape this time? An old man that rode on an ink chelan spoke. His voice rumbled, and it shattered the clouds in the surroundings and shattered the silence in the surroundings. This was an emperor ancestor of one family, named Wen Taolu. He had been an ancestor for tens of thousands of years, and his reputation was unparalleled. At this moment, he spoke with a ghastly gaze that revealed piercingly cold coldness and undisguised ridicule and disdain. Lin Sun didn't care at all, or in other words, he didn't care about the old guy at all. He said, "Who can tell me who are the people of Luo family?" Everyone in the field was stunned. Didn't this guy care about his life or death at all at this time? Although thinking so, many people still looked at the place where Luo family was. I am. Almost at the same time, Luo Ling stood out with a graceful bearing and peerless charm. Her starry eyes were calm as she looked at Lin Sun. She said lightly, "I have the consent of the Wen family and the Hung family. As long as you surrender, I can give you a chance to live. It depends on whether you can fight for it or not." There was a commotion in the field, and many people showed strange expressions. What did Luo family want to do? Could it be that they wanted to subdue this person and make him serve them? Lin Sun cast a glance at Luo Ling, then at the people beside her. He could not help but smile and say, "I know exactly what your Luo family is plotting. In the future, once I reach the eternal true world, I will personally pay a visit to the Luo family." How laughable. You will definitely die today. So what are you talking about in the future? A black-robed man shouted coldly. Is that so? Then let's see who can survive until the end. Lin Sun's voice rang out. Boom! An indescribably terrifying killing intent spread out from his body and swept out like a tidal wave, covering the sky and covering the sun. The space around him collapsed inch by inch and wailed shrilly. Everyone in the field felt a chill run down their spines. In a daze, they seemed to see a bloody scene of mountains of corpses and seas of blood, the collapse of the heavens, and the fall of the gods. It made their hearts palpitate, and this was only caused by the killing intent Lin Sun released. What terrifying killing intent! There was a commotion in the field, and countless cries of alarm rang out. Some of those with slightly weaker cultivations felt a piercing pain in their eyes, and their minds were almost torn apart. Their faces turned pale. Even those peerless figures couldn't help but have a cold glare in their eyes, and they were extremely moved. This killing intent was indeed too terrifying, and it could easily shatter a person's mind. It was easy to imagine how powerful Lin Sun's attainments in the way of killing were if he was able to possess such killing intent. Then they looked at the field. Lin Sun seemed to have changed into a completely different person. His body shone and flowed with divine splendor. He was like a great abyss lying there, and his power was so great that it pierced through the heavens and earth. Just a glance from him would cause one's soul to feel a piercing pain and suffocate. Invisible killing intent surrounded him, making him look like an ancient demon god who had just slaughtered his way out of a bloody purgatory, and his power could suppress the entire universe. Compared to his previous ordinary appearance, it was as if he was a completely different person. There was a deathly silence in the field. Many people were shocked and doubtful, and the enemies who were ready to make trouble before also showed a dignified look. Is this the power of the devouring abyss? A trace of imperceptible jealousy flashed in the depths of Luo Ling's eyes. Immediately, this trace of jealousy was replaced by cold, killing intent. Everyone, this person is stubborn and should be killed. My condition is still the same. If we can capture him alive, our Luo family will not let you down, Luo Ling said coldly. There was a commotion in the field. Riding on the black Kylan, Wen Tao's eyes were full of killing intent. He laughed and said, "Good." Boom! Suddenly, a large formation emerged, and endless runes of light swept up, completely covering Lin Sun and the inn behind him. The spectators in the field were awestruck. This was obviously a large formation that had been set long ago. It was just waiting for Lin Sun to come out and trap him in it. Clatter, the light rain was like a tide, bright and dazzling. This large formation was extremely magical. Countless prohibitions condensed into a lotus with a scope of 3,000 meters. It was stacked layer upon layer, bright red, and there were bursts of obscure and mysterious Taoist sounds coming from it, shocking people's souls. This is the Red Lotus Boundary Formation of Wen family. It can destroy a world easily. Even if the Emperor Ancestor is trapped in it, he can't escape at all and will be refined alive. Someone whispered and recognized the origin of this formation, causing exclamations in the field. Dying in this formation is worthy of his feat of leaving his name on the Xian list, when Tao, who was riding on the black Kylan, twisted his beard and smiled. As he said, he gave an order: you wait to enter the formation and control the killing tribulation of this formation to kill him completely. Yes, a total of 36 emperors from one family walked out and rushed into the Red Lotus boundary formation. They would control the 36 formation bases respectively, so that the formation could be fully exerted. The spectators in the distance were all chilled. Obviously, in order to deal with Lin Sun this time, the three immortal emperors of one family, Hung family, and Luo family, were fully prepared. Not only did they send out a terrifying lineup, but they also used a peerless forbidden formation to prevent accidents. It's better not to destroy it. Keep him alive, Luo Ling reminded. When Tao laughed, as you wish. P.S. Second update. Chapter 2578. It could be seen clearly from the outside world. In the Red Lotus boundary formation, there was a scene of burning heaven and earth. The terrible torrent of fire turned into a scene of destruction, rumbling and roaring with immeasurable power. As the 36 emperors of one family entered the formation, each of them took charge of formation base, and the power of the whole formation rose a lot. The sea of fire was furious. It was full of killing. Just looking at it from a distance, people were horrified. It was too terrible. If they were to fall into it, they would probably be unable to hold on at all and would be incinerated into ashes in an instant. But in such a perilous situation, Lin Sun looked at the void calmly, as if he was walking on the flat ground. Seeing the killing coming, he just stretched his body slightly. Then, boom! Lin Sun took a step forward, and countless dazzling sword chi shot out from the acupoints all over his body. With the roaring sound of the sword chi crossed the sky like a golden rainbow and shot in all directions. The Red Lotus world formation was extremely profound and unfathomable, yet was unable to obstruct the boundlessly violent rain of swords at all. Then, before the 36 when clan martial emperors in the formation could react, their bodies were shredded into bloody mush by the fierce sword chi. Their bodies and souls were destroyed. The peerless sword chi raged and even destroyed the restrictions within the grand formation, and it swept forward like a hot knife through butter. Boom! Just for a moment. The grand formation that was like a 3-kilometer-long red lotus exploded abruptly, and the fragments were like burning petals that dispersed into the surroundings in a gorgeous and dazzling manner. At that moment, everyone was shocked. One blow, killing the 36 emperors and breaking the Red Lotus boundary formation. Even those peerless figures widened their eyes in disbelief. When Tao Lu, who was riding on the black Kylan and twisting his beard and smiling, now had a gloomy face. Luo Ling was also stunned, and her face changed slightly. The Red Lotus boundary formation was a terrible formation that could trap the ancestors, but it was so easily destroyed, which was completely beyond her imagination. In the rain of light, Lin Sun's tall figure rushed out. His aura was so strong that it was earth-shattering like a god. Looking from afar, he was like a huge abyss crashing forward. Suddenly, a group of emperors guarding there burst into pieces. They couldn't bear Lin Sun's attack at all. Blood splattered and screams rang out. Lin Sun showed no mercy at all. He intended to break out of the encirclement and leave the city. Therefore, the moment he made his move, he revealed his true prowess. His entire body smashed through countless great emperor silhouettes. Broken limbs and blood poured like waterfalls, drawing a long bloody path behind him. The scene was chaotic, and everyone's expression changed. This evil creature wants to break out of the encirclement. Quickly stop him. Do it. Now. We can't let him escape. Earth-shattering shouts rang out one after another. Rumble. The Monarch Realm army reacted and charged towards Lin Sun, forming into a forest formation. Each of them activated their treasures and Dao arts to attack Lin Sun. These martial emperors were not ordinary characters. Most of them came from the One clan, Hung clan, and Luo clan. Each of them had experienced countless bloody battles. They were clad in armor and held extraordinary monarch weapons in their hands. Each of these weapons was extremely powerful. Now that they were attacking together, some peerless characters couldn't help but gasp. Boom! In the earth-shattering roar, Lin Sun's attack was suddenly blocked and his speed slowed down. Kill! Seeing this, the great emperors took the opportunity to surround Lin Sun. Countless golden flames, weapons, flying swords, and starlight shuttled through the void and turned into a terrifying energy tide, slamming towards Lin Sun. What did it mean when at least 100 great emperors joined hands? And they were the best among the great emperors. Even the Ninth Realm ancestors might not be able to withstand a blow from them. Rumble. The world was in chaos. The power of the restriction covering the city was triggered and rumbled. Streaks of Taoist techniques that were thousands of feet long stretched across the sky. The battle formation was like a forest. Countless monarch weapons were like dense divine rainbows, tearing the sky and shining coldly. These great emperors were surrounded by light. At this moment, they attacked together as if they were going to shatter the sky, sink the earth, and destroy the world. Watching from afar, all that could be seen were the sounds of killing. Countless dazzling divine halos of the great path flowed in all directions. Many great emperor weapons and great path power filled the space, surrounding Lin Sun so tightly that his figure was almost invisible. Fortunately, he is not as difficult to deal with as I imagined. As long as I can trap him, the outcome will be decided. Far away, Luo Ling heaved a sigh of relief. She did not attack personally, but was watching from afar. I can give this evil creature to you alive, but before that, I will skin him alive and break his bones. When Talyu's expression was grim, and his eyes were terrifying. Previously, when the Red Lotus World formation was broken, the 36 great emperors of the one family suffered. This made his heart bleed. Sure, Luo Ling looked relaxed. As long as Lin Sun did not die, it did not matter how he was tortured. At this moment, boom! In the battlefield, there was a sudden loud roar. The roar shook the eardrums and went straight to the depths of people's souls. It was like an ancient bronze cauldron being struck, making a loud sound. Almost at the same time, ripples of the great path that were visible to the naked eye spread in all directions. Every great emperor who came into contact with the ripples shuddered, as if they were struck by lightning. The great emperors who were closest to the core couldn't withstand the ripples, and their bodies exploded. Even their spiritual souls were shattered. Then, a stove with 3 legs and 2 handles turned into a monstrous momentum. It suddenly shone brightly and burst out billions of divine halos like a rain of light. At this instant, numerous imperial weapons that possessed unfathomable might exploded into pieces like paper, and they transformed into scrap metal while their spirits vanished completely. Many Tao arts were like bubbles. Before they could touch the stove, they were swept away by the endless rain of light and destroyed completely. That kind of divine power made the world wail. It was extremely terrifying. What kind of treasure is this? Exclamations were heard. Even the Supreme Emperor weapons are not so terrifying. Is this stove an immortal Tao weapon? Many people were shocked. It was just a treasure, but as soon as it appeared, its power had shocked most of the people present. Just looking at it from a distance was enough to make people shudder. What? Huaroaksu, who was watching the battle from afar, showed a serious expression for the first time. This cauldron has the aura of immortality, but it is not an immortal Tao weapon, let alone a supreme emperor weapon. It is really strange. It is indeed unusual. The beautiful woman in purple also showed a surprised expression. With their eyesight, how could they not see the terrible power of this cauldron? It was definitely a miracle that surpassed nature, and it was extremely rare. Boom! On the battlefield, the encirclement showed signs of breaking. As Lin Sun took out the sword stove, the lethality was so great that more than a dozen great emperors were killed on the spot. And this was not the end. Seeing that many enemies were about to besiege him again, a sword suddenly sounded in the sword stove. It shocked the 9 heavens. It shook the 10 directions. A simple and unadorned Taoist sword appeared and slashed forward in the air. Swish! A strand of sword chi shot through the sky. It was boundlessly brilliant, and it contained unfathomably terrifying might. As the sword chi descended, the heavens and the earth shook while space rumbled and collapsed. And the figures in front of Lin Sun exploded one by one, directly crushed by the fierce sword chi. They could not bear the killing at all. Body protection, Taoist dharma, and treasures were as fragile as paper. Just for a moment, a bloody road of thousands of meters appeared in front of Lin Sun. It was empty, and only the thick blood surged. Hiss! The sound of countless people gasping resounded, and all the spectators were dumbstruck. They were fiercely shocked by the might of this sword strike, and their minds were shaken. How could there be such a great emperor weapon in this world? The sword and the cauldron coexisted, invincible and crushing the battlefield. Only this blow killed dozens of great emperors, including 7 or 8 Ninth Realm ancestors. The atmosphere on the battlefield was silent. At this time, people deeply understood why Lin Sun could kill Hung Tianxua, the ancestor of One Tao, and why he could leave his name on the Xian list. Whether it was his combat power or the great emperor weapon in his hand, they were far beyond his realm. Killing great emperors was as easy as mowing grass. And taking advantage of this opportunity, Lin Sun rushed out a lot. However, this area was covered with layers of restriction. Before he rushed out far, Lin Sun was blocked by the power of restriction. Boom! The dense restriction Taoist patterns, like the water of the Milky Way bursting its dike, slapped down on Lin Sun's figure. Lin Sun frowned and slashed out with his sword. In an instant, the grand formation was struck to the point it roiled violently, and then it exploded apart in the end. Junior, go to hell! Suddenly, a roar sounded, and a silver halberd came from the air, carrying the unique power of the ancestor realm. Just one blow, the vast world was full of silver sharpness. The person who attacked was Wen Tao Lu, the ancestor of One Tao. He had been watching the battle and thought that killing Lin Sun would be easy. But as Lin Sun took out the sword cauldron, the situation suddenly reversed, and he couldn't sit still and attacked at the first time. Clang! Lin Sun blocked it with the sword cauldron. The two collided, and a rain of light splashed. Lin Sun's figure shook slightly, and he couldn't help snorting coldly. Old thing, are you going to follow in the footsteps of Hung Tianxua? As he said, he activated the sword cauldron and rushed forward. Evil creature, I can't let you live. Wen Taolu shouted and activated the black Kylan under him. He rushed across the sky with divine power, and a silver halberd illuminated the world. The spectators in the distance were breathless, and their minds were shaken. The power of One Tao shocked them when they were watching the battle, and they were almost unable to bear it. But to everyone's surprise, Wen Taoyu's terrifying attack was blocked by Lin Sun again. In an instant, the two of them fought dozens of times, and every time it was a head-on collision. Just the force that spread out during the fierce battle made some Emperor Realm figures unable to approach them. People's eyes went blank, and their scalps went numb. Lin Sun could really compete with One Tao head-on? Before people could react, they heard a clang. The sword whistled like a tide. The Wuyuan Taoist sword swept out again and slashed in the void. Roar! The black Kylan under Wen Tao Lu let out a painful scream. It was directly swept by the sword chi, and its belly was cut open, and blood poured down. P.S. The third update is here. It's done before 12 o'clock in the evening. Chapter 2579. Blood rain splashed, and the black Kylan's howl stopped abruptly. It was completely submerged by the sword chi and disappeared. Wen Tao Lu, who was riding on it, staggered and flew out, looking a little embarrassed. At this moment, many people looked dull and could hardly believe their eyes. In a head-on collision, Lin Sun killed the mount of the Emperor Ancestor. Evil beast! Wen Taoyu's face was livid. He felt ashamed and didn't care about his mount. He stepped into the air and waved his halberd to kill Lin Sun. His power became more and more terrible. Go! With a flick of his hand, a glazed palace lamp appeared. It was azure gold in color, and as it spun, a black divine flame whizzed out. The flame burned through the void, leaving a long black trace in the space, like a trace of lava. What was even more terrifying was that the figures of countless gods and devils were born within the black divine flames. Each and every one of them was indomitable, as if they had walked out from an ancient legend. Their auras were powerful and terrifying. Magic lamp, someone shouted. This was an ancient emperor armament that was passed down in the Wen clan, and it was extremely famous. The flames within the lantern were said to be able to burn everything and incinerate the sun and moon. If it was activated with full force, it could even instantly burn a large world and obliterate a starry sky. Lin Sun didn't dodge and directly activated Abyssal Sword Cauldron to kill. Boom! In the void, a terrible and mighty aura was rolling. It could be seen that hundreds of millions of rays of light flowed out of Abyssal Sword Cauldron. They were sacred and glorious, suppressing the demons in the sky. Even the black flame, which was powerful enough to burn the sun, the moon, and the stars, couldn't hurt Abyssal Sword Cauldron at all. Instead, it was constantly swallowed and annihilated. In the blink of an eye, the Fiend Transformation Lantern's attack was swept clean. This scene stunned everyone. They realized that the power of Lin Sun's Sword Cauldron was far above that of the Emperor Weapon Magic Lamp. A few exceptional individuals, even more so, revealed blazing expressions. The Sword Cauldron's power was heaven-defying, making them feel moved as well, desiring to possess it. Old thing, get out of here if you don't want to die. With a loud shout, Lin Sun activated Abyssal Sword Cauldron and rushed forward. When Taoyu's face darkened, as the Emperor Ancestor, he couldn't defeat Lin Sun for a long time. If this matter was spread out, he would become a big laughingstock. He took a deep breath, and his aura became even more ferocious. As he controlled the halberd and the magic lamp, his aura became even more terrifying. Lin Sun didn't want to be entangled with them and was trying his best to break a way out. Just then, dong, suddenly, the sound of a drum exploded, as if heaven and earth had just been created. Lin Sun was shocked and dodged at once. Boom! The space where he stood earlier suddenly exploded apart, and the aftershock that swept out was like a tsunami that swept towards the surroundings, causing the heavens and the earth to tremble. A boorish man with a bee-skin drum in his hand walked out from the scene. His bones were thick and large, and his eyes were cold like lightning. His entire body was covered in the light of the ancestor realm, making him look like an ancient god of berserkers. Rampage Prefecture, a progenitor of the Hung clan. As soon as he charged out, he suddenly slapped the beast skin drum in his hand, and the sound of the drum shook the souls of others to the point of feeling intense pain, causing stars to appear before their eyes, and countless people were on the verge of coughing up blood. Even if his six senses were severed, he still couldn't stop this type of drum sound. It was too strange, directly affecting his soul and mental state. Lin Sun couldn't help but frown when two Emperor Ancestors attacked, but he didn't show any fear. He was already prepared for a fierce battle. However, to everyone's surprise, a thin and illusory figure appeared shortly after the horizontal continent appeared. This was an old woman with white hair. Her face was wrinkled like ravines, but her eyes were as clear as water, gleaming with a piercing coldness. A bone-piercing chill. She held a jasper staff in her hand and silently teleported through the air. She lifted the staff and ruthlessly stabbed it towards Lin Sun's back. Although it seemed simple, it contained a terrifying might that tore apart the bindings of space, as if it could cut through all obstructions. Clang! Lin Sun used the sword cauldron to block, but the impact actually caused the blood and qi in his body to churn. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes. This old woman might seem unremarkable, but she was clearly stronger than Wen Taolu. And seeing the appearance of this old woman, a commotion broke out in the scene. Luotian too, an old antique that had lived for tens of thousands of years. The star-studded staff in her hand was an extremely terrifying Emperor's Dao weapon. It was said to be able to drive away large stars and split the sea of stars. As soon as Luo Xin appeared, he, Wen Taolu, and Rampage Prefecture surrounded Lin Sun in a triangular formation, causing Lin Sun's situation to become extremely dangerous. 3 ancestors of one Dao had moved out in the entire vast 1,000 battle domains, who below the Emperor Ancestor level could be a match for them. If Lin Sun doesn't have a trump card, he won't be able to escape. Hua Ruoxu, who had seen this scene, couldn't help but sigh. Even if he fought 1 against 3, he had no chance of winning. Even if he used his life-saving means, he could only escape, but it was impossible for him to win. Lin Sun, let's see how you escape this time. Luo Ling's expression was as cold as frost. In the previous battle, the Luo clan had lost many Emperor Realm cultivators, which made her extremely sad. How can we fight? At this moment, even the spectators could see that Lin Sun's situation was not good, and their hearts were in turmoil. There was no gloating, no mockery, and no disdain. Lin Sun had already shocked them through the previous massacre and conquest. Who would dare to underestimate him? They only felt a wave of pity. Such an outstanding person was rare, and if he lived, he was destined to be a legend that surpassed the Ancestor Realm. But now, he was at the end of the road, and he was about to die. Boom! The battle continued, and the sky darkened. The 3 Emperor Ancestors attacked, and each of them activated their own cultivation. For a moment, the world was covered by endless Tao light and treasure light. It was too dazzling and resplendent. Each of their attacks could easily destroy a realm, and now they were all targeting Lin Sun. Just by looking at them, one could not help but feel despair. But even so, Lin Sun's expression was as calm as before, and only his eyes were frightening. In other words, this was the opportunity that he had been waiting for. It was a chance to kill all 3 Emperor Ancestors in one go. Only then could he take advantage of the situation to kill his way out of the encirclement and then achieve his goal of leaving Tai City. At that time, where couldn't he go in the vast world? And if he was trapped in the city, even if he could survive for a while, he would be like a bird in a cage and would be killed at any time. In fact, these were all secondary. What Lin Sun was most afraid of was the City Lord's mansion. Once the City Lord ordered the whole city to search for him, Tai City was destined to become a natural cage. This was the reason why Lin Sun tried to kill his way out of the city. But when Lin Sun was about to use his trump card, suddenly, a voice that was filled with great dignity resounded in this world. The battle ends here, otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Every word, like the sonorous voice of the Great Way, reverberated in the world, and even suppressed the sound of fighting on the battlefield. City Lord. Countless people were surprised and couldn't believe it. No one had expected that. When Lin Sun was about to be captured, the City Lord of Tai City suddenly intervened. This caught everyone off guard. What's going on? Luo Ling's face changed. As far as she knew, before taking this action, the 2 immortal Emperor clans, Hung Clan and Wen Clan, had already got the tacit approval of the City Lord's mansion. On the battlefield, the 3 Emperor Ancestors, Wen Taolu, Hung Zhou, and Luo Xin all looked gloomy and surprised. But they were not willing to stop here, because they needed an opportunity to capture and kill Lin Sun. Looking at each other, they all used all their strength to attack Lin Sun with great tacit understanding. It seemed that they wanted to kill Lin Sun with a thunderous momentum. For Lin Sun, he was also unwilling to give up this excellent opportunity to kill the 3 Emperor Ancestors. Moreover, he didn't know whether it was a blessing or a curse for the City Lord to intervene at this time. Seeing the 3 Emperor Ancestors rushing at him regardless of anything, it was exactly what Lin Sun wanted. But at this time, a cold snort sounded, resounding through the universe. A green figure suddenly appeared on the battlefield, and then he stretched out his hand and slapped it down. Boom! Wen Taoyu's silver halberd, Hung Zhou's animal skin and bones, and Luo Xintu's star-studded staff were shaken and sent flying. The pupils of the 3 shrank, and they put away their treasures at once. Their faces were gloomy. Almost at the same time, Lin Sun forced a wisp of quietus fire of order that was almost released back into the sword cauldron, frowning. Looking at the field again, the cyan figure was a handsome young man with snow-white hair falling to his waist. His eyes were as deep as the sea, full of the vicissitudes of time. The whole field was silent. All eyes fell on the handsome young man with white hair. No matter who it was, no matter how high their cultivation was, no matter where they came from, they all showed more or less awe. Because this person was by Jianshun, the lord of Tai City, a legendary sword ancestor, a heaven-reaching giant from the seventh heaven immortal emperor clan by family. His reputation had long spread throughout the vast thousand battlefields and was deeply rooted in the hearts of every strong man. At this moment, even Lin Sun couldn't help showing a trace of fear. Although they were all ancestors of a Dao, compared with Bai Jianshun, Wen Taolu, and the other two seemed to be much dimmer. Whether it was their own power or their disdainful demeanor, they were superior to ordinary emperor ancestors. This kind of person was undoubtedly terrible. Just like before, a casual strike from him had dispersed the full force attacks of 3 emperor ancestors. How could they not be fearful of such might? City Lord, why are you stopping us? Wen Taoyu's face was gloomy, and his hoarse voice broke the silence. Tai City cannot be in chaos anymore. Bai Jianshun looked beyond the sky, in the direction of the Great Path Relic. The changes and tribulations born from the Great Path Relic will erupt at any time. At this time, Tai City cannot be in chaos. His voice was calm, but it gave off a feeling that it could not be disobeyed. But this person is a criminal on the wanted list. Everyone has the right to punish them. If we don't do that, Tai City will only become more chaotic. Hengxing, Zhou said angrily. Bai Jianshun looked at Hengxing province and said indifferently, "Do you think Tai City will be in trouble with me here?" It was a light sentence, but it was domineering and disdainful. Facing Bai Jianshun's gaze and questioning, Hengxing Zhou felt a chill down his spine. P.S. The 4th update is here. Also, I would like to thank all the brothers and sisters who voted tonight. No matter what the final ranking is, I love you all. M. Chapter 2580. The smell of blood permeated the air. In the silent battlefield, Bai Jianshun became the focus of attention as soon as he appeared. Everyone was shocked and doubtful. At this last moment, he suddenly stopped the battle that was destined to decide the winner. Was it really just because of the changes in the relics of the Tao? Even Lin Sun couldn't help frowning. Before, he was most afraid of the sword ancestor who was in the city lord's mansion. According to Cyan Sparrow, Bai Jianshun was not only powerful, but also came from the Bai family in the 7th heaven. His background was extremely tyrannical. It should be known that the immortal emperor clan in the 7th heaven was a terrifying existence in charge of the heavenly order. Therefore, Lin Sun would rather kill his way out of the city than stay in the city. What he feared was that he would be wanted by Bai Jianshun. But he never expected that when Bai Jianshun appeared, it was to quell the war. What was going on? Lin Sun didn't believe the reason Bai Jianshun said. In the distance, Luo Ling's beautiful face was full of unwillingness. She couldn't help saying, "City Lord, this person has killed nearly 60 martial emperors in the previous battle. He's extremely vicious. If you don't want any more chaos to occur in the city, it's best if you can suppress and imprison this person. This way, you'll be able to solve the problem once and for all." Her words resounded through the field. Lin Sun's black eyes flashed with killing intent. This woman was evil. The eyes of Wen Taolu, Hengxing Zhou, and Luo Xin too lit up, and they all said, "Yes, this person is rampant and cruel. He must be detained." As long as they captured Lin Sun, they could use the power of their clans to fish Lin Sun out of the hands of the city lord. At that time, Lin Sun's life and death would no longer be up to him. At this moment, Bai Jianshun glanced back at Lin Sun. Seeing that Lin Sun looked calm, without the slightest tension and panic, he couldn't help nodding secretly. He didn't say anything. Bai Jianshun looked at Wen Taolu and the others again and said, "I won't repeat what I said a second time. From today onwards, no matter who dares to make a move in the city, I, Bai Jianshun, will be the first to not spare him." His voice was indifferent, but everyone was breathless. They felt a majesty coming to their faces, and their hearts couldn't help but tremble. Everyone realized that this was an iron law drawn by Jianshan. Whoever dared to touch it would die. Whoosh! The air fluctuated. Bai Jianshan, whose hair was as white as snow and who looked like a handsome young man, disappeared and left directly. The surroundings were deathly silent. The expressions of Wen Taolu and the others were gloomy and unsightly, while their chests felt oppressed and uncomfortable to the extreme. His enemy was right in front of him. He was just a step away from killing his opponent. Obviously, but as Bai Jianshan declared his will, everything changed. The cultivators of the Wan, Hung, and Luo clans had unsightly expressions, and they were depressed to the point of wanting to spit blood. It was especially so for Luo Ling. Her pretty face was ashen, and she was so angry that her entire body was trembling. For the sake of today's encirclement and annihilation, she prepared for a long time. She'd used all sorts of methods, such as killing with a borrowed knife, fanning the flames, and joining forces. But who would have thought that in the end, it would all be for naught? This made her heart bleed. It was fine if they had come up empty-handed, but after experiencing this bloody battle, they had gone for wool and come home shorn. The losses were too great. Everyone in the field couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Lin Sun's luck was too good. He was about to suffer a disaster, but his luck turned. And not only did he survive, but from today on, with the spread of Bai Jianshan's decree, no one in the city would dare to touch him again. Whoever dared to do so would be going against Bai Jianshan. Looking at the livid faces of Wen Taolu and the others, one could tell how depressed they were in their hearts in this silent atmosphere. Lin Sun suddenly burst into laughter. The more he laughed, the happier he was. The laughter resounded through the sky, surging in all directions, revealing incomparable joy. But for Luo Ling, Wen Taolu, and the others, this laughter was like a resounding slap on their faces, stinging and uncomfortable. Everyone sighed again, with different expressions on their faces. Lin Sun's life was too good. Evil creature. Wen Taolu was enraged and pointed at Lin Sun. Just you wait. When the trial of the relic of the Great Path begins, it will be the time of your death. At that time, I will grind your bones and scatter your ashes. Hung Taoyu's eyes were terrifyingly cold. Luo Shin too turned and left directly. She was worried that if she stayed any longer, she would be so angry that she would attack. I can only say that you're lucky this time. Otherwise, you will learn from Hung Tianshua's mistakes. Lin Sun's smile faded. However, it's also good to determine the winner in the relic of the Great Path. At that time, you'd better wash your necks and wait. With that, he swaggered off. Alone with his hands behind his back, he looked carefree and at ease. Watching him leave, when Taolu and the others' killing intent was boiling again, but they could only forcibly suppress it. That feeling made them feel like they were going crazy. What could they do? They didn't have the resources to compete with Bai Jianshan. Let's go. When Taolu waved his hand and left in a hurry with the rest of the One family. After that, Hung Xingzhou, Luo Shintu, and the others also led their people away. None of them were willing to stay here any longer. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, what happened today was simply too shameful, causing them to feel so ashamed that they couldn't even show their faces. Not long after, the spectators nearby also left one after another with complicated emotions. Lin Sun is indeed a peerless man. In such a situation, he didn't die. His luck is also extremely amazing. Who can believe that his cultivation is only at the peak of the 7th level of the Emperor realm? The rumor is true. This guy can indeed compete with the ancestor of the first Tao. People left talking and thinking of the bloody scenes they had seen before. They were still shocked. What luck! It's clear that Bai Jianshan deliberately favored him. At the top of the pavilion in the distance, Ruoxu thought for a moment and said, "But why did Bai Jianshan do this? Young master, why don't I go to Bai Jianshan to inquire about it?" The beautiful woman in purple next to him said. She was also a little confused. Bai Jianshan suddenly intervened in this grievance. Obviously, there was something hidden. No need. Ruoxu shook his head. The people of Bai family don't deal with our Hua family. Let's go. Whoosh. The next moment, the two figures disappeared. What a pity. In the crowd, a woman in plain clothes sighed in her heart and quietly put away a flying sword in her sleeve. Her appearance was ordinary, her aura was ordinary, and her every move was also very ordinary. In this vast sea of people, no one would look at her more than once. I can only wait for the trial of the Great Path relic to begin and then make plans, the woman in plain clothes thought as she walked toward her residence. However, just as she arrived at the inn, she saw a handsome, white-haired young man standing in front of the inn with his hands behind his back. He had a leisurely manner. The woman in plain clothes stiffened imperceptibly, but her expression was as calm as before. She walked as usual and wanted to pretend that she didn't know and leave in a hurry. Leave. But at this moment, the handsome, white-haired young man said with a smile, "I came here deliberately, but you want to avoid meeting me?" The woman in plain clothes looked up at him and did not speak. "If you dare to make a move at this time, I'm afraid the hidden void realm will lose a capable general." The handsome, white-haired young man said indifferently, "Remember what I said today. Whoever dares to make a move in the city, I will be the first to not spare him. If the hidden void realm thinks that I, by Jianshun, am not qualified, you can try." After saying that, he took a deep look at the woman in plain clothes, then left with a smile. Until his figure disappeared, the woman in plain clothes' eyes were calm, but she frowned a little. Then, she walked into the inn with a calm expression. There was not a trace of emotional fluctuation. Tai City was in an uproar. When the news of Lin Sun fighting alone against the three immortal Emperor clan's experts of Wan, Hung, and Luo spread, it also caused a great uproar. He killed Hung Tianxua, the ancestor of Wan Dao in Beginning City. He was ranked 3rd on the wanted list. He left his name on the Xian list on the boundary battle steel. Even Lin Sun's past achievements were dug out and became a hot topic of discussion in the city. Not only the cultivators from the vast 1,000 battle domains were shocked, but even the nobles from the immortal Emperor clans were shocked by Lin Sun's fierce achievements. This is a peerless and ruthless person. He can fight head-on against the ancestor of Wan Dao. At that moment, the people firmly believed in this rumor and no longer doubted it. They could not help but sigh with emotion. If Lin Sun managed to reach the eternal true world alive, then the ancient path of galaxy, which was in a state of decline, would have its ranking changed because of his achievements alone. In this noisy atmosphere, Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yuduchio walked into Tai City. When they heard this news, they looked at each other and could not help but be shocked. "Do you think there's still a need for us to find this guy to cooperate with?" Yuduchio had a complicated look in his eyes. As early as in Beginning City, the two had invited Lin Sun more than once. They planned to act together after arriving at Tai City. But now, the strength Lin Sun displayed was completely beyond their expectations. He is not a wanted criminal, nor is he a heinous person. The reason for this is clear to those who have come into contact with him in Beginning City. Xiang Xiaoyan was silent for a moment. Then her eyes were calm. "So, I will not give up on cooperating with him just because he has completely offended the three immortal Emperor clans." At this point, a bitter smile appeared on her lips. "What I'm worried about now is whether this guy is willing to cooperate with us." Yuduchio was speechless. Even if he was unwilling, he had to admit that with Lin Sun's current strength, there was indeed no need to cooperate with them at all. "No matter what, we must go see him. I have some clues related to the relics of the Great Way in my hands. Maybe he'll be very interested." Xiang Xiaoyuan made a decision. "But before that, let's go to the region where the battle steel is located. I also want to see if I can leave my name on it with my current cultivation." Yuduchio's spirit was lifted, and he showed an eager expression. He said, "Let's go and have a look. Even Lin Sun can leave his name on the Xian list. With our strength, at least, we can fight for a place on the heavenly list, right?" "The heavenly list?" Xiang Xiaoyuan was startled, but she did not say anything. But deep in her heart, she had already realized that after knowing Lin Sun's achievements, Yuduchio probably already thought that he could not compare with Lin Sun. This was a subtle change. Literature Hall. Chapter 2581. City Lord Mansion. Small bridges and flowing water, picturesque scenery. In a pavilion on the side of the lake, by Jianshun, whose hair was as white as snow, picked up a chess piece and gently knocked it on the chessboard. Then, he smiled and looked up at the woman playing chess. "My good niece, it's your turn." The woman was dressed in a green robe, dressed as a man. Her lips were red, her teeth were white, and her eyebrows were picturesque. At this moment, she picked up a white chess piece but couldn't put it down for a long time. It was Dugu Yuran. "The inside and outside of the chess game are all under your control. I can only—" With that, she waved her sleeves and broke the chess game. The chess pieces scattered like rain. Then, she relaxed and said with a smile, "Overturn this game of chess." Bai Jianshun touched his nose and smiled bitterly. "I haven't seen you for many years, but you are still as elegant as before." Dugu Yuran smiled faintly and blinked her watery eyes. "Thank you for the compliment." Bai Jianshun poured a cup of tea, handed it over, and said, "Tell me, why do you care so much about this Lin Sun? If your father knows, this kid will be dead. In the seventh heaven, who doesn't know that your father's biggest worry is you?" There was a hint of ridicule in his words. "He is my savior." Dugu Yuran thought for a moment and said seriously, "Is this reason enough?" Bai Jianshun sneered. "In this vast thousand-battle domain, even if the ancestor of one Dao personally attacked, he wouldn't be able to hurt a single hair of yours. Savior? Are you trying to make me laugh to death so that you can inherit my position as city lord?" Dugu Yuran smiled and said, "But he saved me after all. It's not too much for me to help him, right?" Bai Jianshun rubbed his eyebrows and sighed. "But helping you with this has caused the Hung, Wen, and Luo immortal emperor clans to hate me to death. In order to dispel the thought of Assassin Frost from the Hidden Space Realm, I personally went to see her. If the Hidden Space Realm finds out, what if they send someone to assassinate me?" He seemed to be complaining and spitting out his grievances. Dugu Yuran was all smiles as he listened and watched. After a long while, he said, "Uncle Bai, what my father said was right. You look aloof, cold, and proud, but in fact, you are just an old man. How old are you? Don't you feel ashamed that you still look like a teenager?" Bai Jianshun coughed and quickly changed the topic. "All right, I've helped you. You'd better leave Tai City as soon as possible." Dugu Yuran raised his eyebrows. "Why?" Bai Jianshun pointed to the sky. "In the relic of the Great Path, there will be an unknown change. If I'm not wrong, this is destined to be a great disaster, and it is very likely to sweep Tai City. At that time, whether this immortal heaven pass can be preserved is a question." As he finished speaking, a serious expression appeared between his brows. As the city lord, he had been paying attention to the Great Path relic from the moment it changed. Until now, as the changes in the Great Path relic became more and more frequent, even he felt an unprecedented pressure. The abnormality in the Great Dao ruin was too strange and filled with inauspiciousness. "Then why didn't you ask everyone in the city to evacuate in advance?" Dugu Yuran asked. "There's no way to leave." Bai Jianshun sighed lightly and revealed a secret. The path to the 10th immortal heaven pass from this city has already been enveloped by the mysterious energy that overflowed from the Great Path relic. Only figures at the Imperial Ancestor realm are capable of safely escaping. Dugu Yuran's pupils narrowed slightly, and she realized the severity of the problem. After a short while, she asked, "What about you? Do you intend to leave before the disaster erupts?" Bai Jianshun said angrily, "I'm the city lord of this city. How can I retreat without a fight? Merely the natives in Tai City number almost 3 million. Besides that, there are numerous cultivators from the boundless world. If I leave..." As he finished speaking, Bai Jianshun couldn't help but let out a long sigh. "What about them?" Dugu Yuran stared blankly at him. "But what if even you are unable to stop this disaster in the end?" Bai Jianshun smiled lightly. "I'll do my best. Do my best." This made Dugu Yuran realize that in the face of this unknown change, Bai Jianshun didn't have much confidence in his heart to resist it. "Do you need my help?" Dugu Yuran asked with a rare, serious look. Bai Jianshun laughed. "Yes, you can help me the most if you leave Tai City now." Dugi Yuran rolled her eyes and said, I'm serious. Bai Jianshan stopped smiling and said, I'm serious too. Dugi Yuran was silent for a moment. Suddenly, she smiled sweetly and said, I'll leave when the disaster breaks out. Lin Sun changed to a new inn. He had just experienced a bloody fight, which didn't affect him much, but he couldn't figure out Bai Jianshan's mind. However, before he could think for too long, someone came to visit. Brother Lin, you cheated me so hard. The visitor was Peng Tianxiang. He complained as soon as he saw Lin. I thought you were Jin Dui. Who knew you were Ling Xuanzi? No, Lin Sun. Lin Sun was surprised. He invited him to take a seat and said, Identity is not important. The important thing is, how did you find me? Peng Tianxiang laughed and said meaningfully, I calculated with my fingers. You must have doubts in your heart, and I'm here to solve them for you. Lin Sun was stunned for a moment. He vaguely guessed something and said, Is it Dugi Yuran who invited Bai Jianshan? Peng Tianxiang patted his thigh and exclaimed, Brother Lin, you have a keen insight. You guessed it as soon as I said it. At this point, Lin Sun finally understood why Bai Jianshan intervened. It turned out to be Dugi Yuran. But why did this troublemaker help him? You are Yuran's savior. Who should I help if not you? Peng Tianxiang said with a smile. Speaking of which, I didn't know until now that you were so powerful. No wonder you dared to kill Zhu Lin directly. His voice was full of admiration. When he first learned the news, he was also shocked and almost couldn't believe it. Even when facing Lin Sun at this time, he still felt it was unreal. You didn't come here just to praise me, did you? Lin Sun said with a smile. Peng Tianxiang said, Yuran asked me to tell you that there will be unknown changes in the relics of the Tao, which is very likely to cause a disaster that will affect the whole Tai city. You'd better leave here as soon as possible. Lin Sun's pupil shrank. Undoubtedly, this news must come from Bai Jianshan. Unfortunately, Peng Tianxiang didn't know what the disaster was. After chatting for a while, he left in a hurry. I should leave as soon as possible, but if I don't participate in the trial and hunt the Emperor-level evil spirit, how can I have the chance to leave? Lin Sun made a decision after thinking about it. 3 days later, the trial to the relics of the Tao would begin. At that time, he should strive to complete the task as soon as possible and leave Tai City as soon as possible. To Lin Sun's surprise, not long after Peng Tianxiang left, someone came to visit again. It was Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yu Duqiu. Have you two made up your mind? Lin Sun asked. At present, the news that he had completely offended the 3 immortal emperor clans of Wan, Hung, and Luo had already spread throughout Tai City. But under such circumstances, the two chose to come to see him. Perhaps they had made some kind of decision in their hearts. If I may be so bold, although I come from the boundless world, I'm not afraid of causing any trouble. Xiang Xiaoyuan's voice was mellow and melodious, revealing a sense of confidence. Lin Sun looked at Yu Duqiu, who said with a smile, I think the same as Fairy Xiaoyuan. Lin Sun nodded and said, Then tell me, what do you want from me? Xiang Xiaoyuan took out a secret map and handed it to Lin Sun. This is a secret map my father drew when he went to the relics of the Tao. It's related to a mysterious opportunity. Lin Sun took the secret map and looked at it. Some winding and complicated paths were marked on it, as well as some dangers distributed along the way. At the end of the secret map, a pair of scarlet blood moons appeared. All those years ago, when my father arrived there, the fortune hadn't appeared yet. In the end, he had no choice but to return empty-handed. According to his analysis, when 9 blood moons surged into appearance at the place of fortune, the fortune sealed within it would emerge into the world. Xiang Xiaoyuan explained softly. Her father was a legendary existence. A long time ago, he had crossed the vast 1,000 battle realms and left his name on the Xian list. After arriving in the eternal world, he made a great name and prestige for himself. It was also because of this that he married a woman from an immortal emperor clan in the 7th heaven. She was Xiang Xiaoyuan's mother. Did your father ever say what this opportunity is? Lin Sun returned the secret map to Xiang Xiaoyuan and asked. Xiang Xiaoyuan shook her head. This is not clear, but according to my father's speculation, it should be related to an immortal inheritance of the last era, because he once heard a chanting sound. It was extremely obscure and mysterious. Even with his cultivation of the 8th level of the immortal emperor realm, he could only hold on for a moment while listening to the chanting sound. After that, he had to cut off the connection and retreat far away. Immortal inheritance. The sound of chanting. Lin Sun was shocked. If this was true, then this opportunity was extremely extraordinary. Yu Duchio said from the side, "The ruins of the Great Path are dangerous and unpredictable. It will be even more difficult to reach that place of opportunity. Therefore, the two of us decided to cooperate with you. If we manage to obtain the opportunity, we will split it evenly." Xiang Xiaoyuan also looked at Lin Sun. Lin Sun rubbed his eyebrows, pondered for a moment, and then said, "Do you two know that there will be an unknown disaster in the relics of the Great Tao, which is very likely to sweep the entire Tai city?" Xiang Xiaoyuan nodded and said, "I just heard about it. However, according to inference, the outbreak of this mutation is very likely to be related to the imminent emergence of the opportunity in the relics of the Great Tao. Although the disaster is inevitable, the opportunity can be sought. Well, if there is no fatal threat after arriving at the relics of the Great Tao, I am very happy to cooperate with you two." Lin Sun nodded. How could he refuse when they had already said so? As for danger and chaos, it was bound to be impossible for everything to be smooth sailing if one wanted to obtain fortuitous encounters. Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yu Duchio suddenly laughed. With Lin Sun joining them, they were more confident about this action. P.S. After the goldfish rests for a few days, it will continue to explode. Chapter 2582. 3 days later. It was the 4th day after Lin Sun entered the city. Before he had time to familiarize himself with it, he had to go with those practitioners who had stayed here for decades to enter the relics of the Great Path in the depths of the universe for the trial. This was a dangerous trial, but it was also a huge opportunity and challenge. Everyone knew that the relics of the Great Path had survived from the last era, and it was well preserved and mysterious. There were many natural treasures, immortal scriptures, amazing inheritances, and supreme treasures left from the last era. In the past years, almost all the strongmen who could return alive from the relics of the Great Path had gained incredible benefits. Some had advanced by leaps and bounds. Some had broken through the barriers of the Great Path. Some had won the secret methods, ancient treasures, rare treasures, and divine materials inherited from the last era. There were so many of them. Before the departure, Bai Jianchen appeared and stood in the air. He glanced at all the strong men who participated in the trial and said, "I think you all know about the changes in the relics of the Great Path. This trip is destined to be dangerous and unpredictable. If you change your mind, you can stay now." There was silence in the field, and no one answered. Those who dared to participate in the trial were tough and experienced. Since they dared to participate in the trial, they naturally would not shrink back. Some formidable and ruthless figures were even rubbing their palms together. Many of them had stayed here for a few tens of years, and they'd never left because they were waiting for this rare opportunity. To the others, this change was extremely likely to lead to an unpredictable disaster. However, to these ferocious figures, this was an unprecedented opportunity, and they would be able to find fortune that had never appeared in the past. Strong people gather in the field, and the atmosphere was solemn. Their fighting spirit was surging like a group of gods gathering in the sky, and their power was overwhelming. Lin Sun stood alone in the crowd. He had made an appointment with Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yu Duchio to meet in the relics of the Great Path. At the same time, he saw Dugu Yuran standing next to Bai Jianchen. The latter was dressed in a green robe and was as beautiful as a painting. She stood there with a graceful and refined charm. Many dazzling figures from the immortal emperor clan looked at her with blazing eyes, and some old antiques were whispering. This made Dugu Yuran extremely outstanding, and the degree of attention she received was not inferior to that of Bai Jianchen. When Lin Sun was about to withdraw his gaze, he suddenly noticed that Dugu Yuran was looking in his direction with a trace of mischievousness in her crystal-clear eyes. Almost at the same time, he heard Dugu Yurin's voice. "Brother Lin, be careful." Lin Sun's expression stagnated imperceptibly, but he didn't say anything. Dugu Yuran didn't say anything further, but her clear eyes would glance at Lin Sun intentionally or unintentionally, causing Lin Sun to feel uncomfortable. "I hope this troublemaker doesn't cause any more trouble," Lin Sun muttered in his heart. "Be careful. I won't say much else." Bai Jianshan didn't talk nonsense and ordered people to open the seal leading to the ruins of the Great Path. In an instant, all the participating cultivators soared into the sky and charged into the sky, and they flashed towards the ruins of the Grand Tao that were extremely far away. Rumble. Like a torrent of steel, the whole sky trembled. A group of great emperors soared into the sky with divine power, causing the void to rumble and tremble, making people shudder. All the heroes rose together, like 100,000 celestial soldiers and generals descending to the world, bringing with them clouds and mist mixed with the sound of Tao. Majestic and powerful fluctuations spread in all directions. None of them were ordinary characters. Even the ancestor of one Tao was involved. "Evil creature, the ruins of the Great Path will be your death." Suddenly, a cold voice resounded, rumbling and exploding. Not far away, when Tao led a group of tyrannical figures, and he didn't hide his killing intent towards Lin Sun. "You must be careful." On the other side, Hongxing Zhou appeared with a group of strong cultivators, aggressive and cold. "This time, City Lord Bai Jianshan can't help you. Lin Sun, when you can't hold on, I will fight for a chance for you to survive." Luo Ling, Luo Shintu, and other figures of the Luo family also appeared, with piercing coldness in their eyes. Lin Sun couldn't help but laugh. He swept his gaze over these enemies and said, "Remember what I said that day. Wash your necks and wait for me." After that, he directly teleported away. Watching him leave, Wen Tao, Hongxing Zhou, Luo Shintu, and the others exchanged glances. All of them had a heart-shaking killing intent as they flew towards the ruins of the Great Path. If I were Lin Sun, I definitely wouldn't participate in this trial. Along the way, it was unknown how many cultivators noticed this scene, and they couldn't help but be alarmed. They realized that Lin Sun's trip was very likely to be fraught with grim possibilities. In the distance, the ruins of the Great Path were like a black curtain of night, falling at the end of the universe. As they got closer, they could vaguely see that in that dark world, mountains and rivers spread out, heavy fog, and billowing, baleful qi. In one area, they could even see many ancient ruins. There were collapsed dojos, abandoned gates, and damaged halls. Don't get close to that place. It's rumored that there's an ancestor realm, evil spirit hibernating there. For countless years, it has devoured many cultivators, and its strength is unfathomable. Until now, no one is willing to provoke it. Ancestor realm, evil spirit. Many people felt a chill in their hearts. They came here for two reasons. Firstly, it was to search for good fortune, and secondly, it was to hunt and kill an Emperor Realm evil spirit. Only by doing so would they be able to exchange for the pass. However, no one would be stupid enough to offend an Ancestor Realm evil spirit. It was too dangerous. When they got close to the ruins of the Great Path and looked over, deafening cries of apes and tiger roars could be faintly heard from that dark world. Amidst the surging baleful qi, the mountains were verdant, and ancient trees towered into the sky. Some old vines had grown for an unknown number of years, and they were like horned dragons as they coiled around the mountains and stretched across a few peaks. Roar! Terrifying roars sounded out from the depths of the mountain range. It was like the roar of an ancient fiend god, and it resounded through the heavens and the earth. It's really different from before. Too many ferocious and horrifying auras have appeared. Someone's expression changed. But similarly, the fortuitous encounters have become more numerous. Similarly, someone noticed that in the depths of the ruins of the Great Path, there was a magnificent glow of treasure that shot up and flashed amidst the surging baleful qi. At this moment, Lin Sun couldn't help but feel apprehensive. This really was a ferocious ancient place. He hadn't even entered, yet he'd already captured many formidable and ferocious auras hidden within. There were some forbidden areas that one could not easily set foot in. But at the same time, as they approached the ruins of the Grand Tao, a strand of the aura of the Grand Tao assaulted their faces. It was dense to the point it simply seemed material, and it was suffused with a primitive aura. Go there. Let's split up. Although there were many great emperors participating in the trial, when they entered the Great Path Relic, they all dispersed and entered different areas. These remains that had survived from the last great era were extremely large, the area boundless, comparable to a great world. It was enough for these trial takers to spread out and move about. The vast land he had just seen was just the tip of the iceberg. There were even more mysterious and unknown regions at the end of the horizon. Lin Sun also took action. His figure flickered as he teleported into the sky, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Let's go and catch up to him. Not long after, Wen Taolu, Hongxing Zhou, Luo Xintu, and the other 3 Immortal Emperor clans also appeared, chasing after Lin Sun. Obviously, they couldn't wait to kill Lin Sun before searching for the good fortune. But when they arrived at the Grand Tao ruins, the expressions of Wen Taolu and the others turned gloomy. Lin Sun disappeared. Even with their divine sense and strength, they couldn't catch a trace of him. Damn, this brat was clearly prepared and chose to escape at the first moment. Hongxing Zhou's expression was gloomy. This is very normal. Without Bai Jianshan's protection, he wouldn't have the guts to confront us head-on. Wen Taoyu's eyes were cold. If it was me, I wouldn't foolishly wait to be besieged and hunted. If I'm not wrong, this brat will most likely choose to hunt the Emperor-rank evil spirits first, and then leave the Grand Tao ruins immediately. In other words, we have to find him before he hunts 10 Emperor-rank evil spirits? Luo Xintu frowned. That's right. When Taolu nodded, Luo Ling suddenly said, I have a secret art that can sense his aura. It's just that it has to be within a range of 10,000 miles. She had a strange jade stone in her hand that was inherited from the Skirich Lord. She could sense the aura of a great abyss. Everyone's spirits were lifted, and Wen Tao said, This relic of the Great Path, except for the most ferocious forbidden areas, the territory is similar to a great world. With our strength, it is enough to search these areas within 3 days. Luo Ling said, When we search as long as we can sense his aura, we will definitely be able to find him immediately. But what if this brat enters those ferocious, forbidden areas? Hongxing Zhou frowned. Everyone fell silent. When Taolu coldly smiled, then there's no need for us to act. He will definitely die. Next, the group of people began to move. Thank you for your treasure. In a mountain range filled with baleful aura, Lin Sun passed a glowing jade bracelet to Xiang Xiaoyuan. Before this, it was precisely this treasure that allowed Lin Sun to teleport 30,000 miles away the moment he arrived at the Grand Tao ruins and appear in this mountain range. Xiang Xiaoyuan and Yu Duqiu were already waiting here. Since we're moving together, how can I watch Brother Lin be hunted down by those fellows? Xiang Xiaoyuan said with a smile. With a wave of her hand, the glowing jade bracelet fell on her snow-white wrist. This was her trump card, given to her by her mother. It was called the 9 Xian World Bracelet, and it could allow people to break through all shackles and teleport 30,000 miles away in an instant. Even if they were trapped in a restriction formation, they could not stop the power of the 9 Xian World Bracelet. Let's go. Without delay, Xiang Xiaoyuan led the way and flew into the distance. Lin Sun and Yu Duqiu followed closely behind. But not long after they moved forward, a scream was heard. There was a fierce battle in front of them. The fierce aura was surging, and the light of treasures shot into the sky. Many Emperor Realm figures were actually fleeing. A Progenitor Realm evil spirit rushed out and devoured more than a dozen people. Let's get out of here. Many figures teleported through the void to escape. The place behind them was in chaos. Mountains collapsed, and large areas of mountains were razed to the ground. Seeing this, Lin Sun and the others could not help but frown.